I once had a fiancé named Mike whom I promised to marry, but I couldn't live with him because of my sister Evelyn. During that time, I was deeply distraught. However, I've since found new happiness. It's important for both my sister and my ex-fiancé to understand this. My name is Emma. I'm an ordinary office worker, not particularly beautiful. Back then, I was engaged to Mike, a handsome man at a prominent company known for his looks. We were blissful, believing our happiness would endure. Yet reality dealt a harsh blow. I couldn't marry Mike because of Evelyn. My sister Evelyn has been passionate about fashion since childhood and remains so today. Her beauty has always attracted attention. She was popular with boys since junior high. She even modeled for a fashion magazine once, an experience that fueled her dream of becoming a model. After university, when I started working at a regular company, I was invited to dinner by a business associate, Mike. After several friendly outings, one day he confessed his feelings for me during dinner. I was taken aback by his sudden confession but also drawn to him. Thus, we began dating. A year into our relationship, Mike proposed, and I happily accepted. When Mike and I visited my parents to share the news, they were overjoyed. We discussed wedding plans, and I was thrilled. However, someone was not pleased, my sister Evelyn. Evelyn was shocked and displeased to see me getting married, especially to someone like Mike. More beautiful and more experienced in relationships, she had always looked down on me. I don't want my friends to know how uncool my sister is, Evelyn often said. To her, the uncle's sister she looked down on was about to marry an elite businessman from a major company. This seemed to amplify Evelyn's pride even more. However, I was oblivious to Evelyn's true feelings. Looking back, I should have noticed her attitude at the time. Suddenly, Evelyn asked Mike, "If you're going to be my brother-in-law, can we exchange contact information?" Mike and I saw no reason to refuse, so we agreed happily. There were days when I worked late on handover tasks, planning to quit my job. One day, while my parents were out of town on a trip, Evelyn took action, a plan she must have devised from the beginning. She called Mike over to her house. "Mike, my sister suddenly came home because she got sick. My parents are out on a trip, and I'm scared to be alone. Can you come over?" Evelyn lied, claiming I had returned early due to illness. Mike, just about to leave work, rushed over, unaware of Evelyn's intentions. I heard Emma was suddenly sick, so I rushed over. "Where's Emma?" Mike asked upon arriving. Of course, I wasn't there. Naturally, Mike assumed as much. "I'm sorry, Mike. I lied to you. My sister isn't actually sick, she's still at work," Evelyn confessed. Instead of getting angry, Mike asked calmly, "Why did you lie?" I just really needed to talk to you, Mike," Evelyn began to explain. When I finished work and returned home, I was taken aback to see Mike there, though I greeted him casually, not expecting anything. "Oh, you're here," I said carelessly. Little did I know, I was about to face the greatest despair and sadness of my life. "Emma, I'm sorry. I think we should break up," Mike said suddenly. His words were incomprehensible to me at first. "What? Are you kidding? Break up? What do you mean?" I asked in confusion, trying to grasp the situation. Just then, Evelyn appeared. "Emma, the truth is, I'm dating Evelyn. I'm sorry, but I fell in love with her more than with you," Mike confessed. Still bewildered and unable to believe it, I stood there as Evelyn spoke up. "I'm sorry, but Mike and I are planning to get married," Evelyn declared matter-of-factly. I couldn't comprehend what was happening. Evelyn continued, "You might not want to come to our wedding, but please at least come to the reception." I felt my world crumbling. My fiancé had chosen Evelyn over me, and suddenly, I wasn't wanted anymore. For a while, both my father and mother were deeply concerned. I spent days locked in my room, unable to face the world. Having already resigned from my job, I found myself with nothing to do. My colleagues from work messaged me about the wedding plans, and I simply informed them that we were planning a small family-only ceremony. Months later, I found myself in a new and unfamiliar place, ready to start afresh. I was determined to find happiness again, this time for certain. After isolating myself for a while following the breakup with Mike, a newfound determination stirred within me. Why do I have to go through this? I'll forget about that man and start anew, I resolved. Things progressed swiftly from there. I discussed my plans with my parents, and with their support, I decided to move out and live independently. My new home was in a serene and green environment, offering tranquility that helped me heal. My parents didn't stand in my way. Instead, they supported me wholeheartedly during the move. As I settled in and took a breather from unpacking, my mother finally shared some news with me. A few days after you retreated to your room, Mike came. I listened to everything about what had transpired between you and Mike, and then she apologized at the end. I didn't understand why my parents were apologizing. Of course, what Mike did is unforgivable, I said firmly. His parents came to apologize too, even kneeling down to express their regret. But then they brought up Evelyn. We know you can't forgive her, but Evelyn is our precious daughter too, my parents explained. Both my father and mother had been deeply troubled by the events. It's only natural that they could not forgive someone like him after what he did to their daughter, my parents continued, trying to justify their stance. Despite my parents' stern words to Evelyn, it seemed she had gone to see Mike. Since then, Mike had been visiting our house every day at the same time, apologizing and pleading for acceptance of his marriage to Evelyn. Reluctantly, my parents had no choice but to relent to Mike's persistence. That's why they apologized to me for accepting their marriage, I concluded quietly. Honestly, I had stopped caring, but I understood my parents' conflicted feelings all too well. It's all over now, and that's okay. Besides, I'm going to meet someone even more wonderful from now on, I assured them, trying to stay positive despite the tears threatening to fall. My mother was in tears and my father looked remorseful, but he managed to smile in response. I said to my parents, when I have a child, I'll rely on both of you a lot. If anything happens, don't overdo it and contact us right away. My mother looked very worried. Once I settled into my new life and found some peace of mind, I started working in a certain restaurant. It was a small place with just a few employees, but it had a bright atmosphere that I really enjoyed. Everyone there was friendly. The manager, Noah, always seemed to be the target of teasing from the part-timers. It was amusing to watch and added to the peaceful vibe of the place. A few months into my job, a fateful event occurred that would impact my future. It happened after closing time when Noah offered me a ride home and confessed his feelings for me. I was torn. Noah is a genuinely good person, and his kindness shines through. He's also popular among women due to his attractive personality and looks. However, I couldn't shake the fear of being abandoned again, haunted by past experiences. Perhaps sensing my uncertainty, Noah assured me he didn't need an immediate answer and left it at that. Things were a bit awkward between us for a while. Yet the usual banter with the part-timers and Noah's kind demeanor helped me ease my worries. Maybe my heart had already made its decision. It was during this time that, during a break, I learned something about Noah that surprised me deeply. It turned out that Noah had experienced betrayal from someone he deeply cared about and had endured a traumatic incident at his previous workplace. Noah and I shared a common past of being hurt by those we loved. That day, I decided to walk home with Noah to hear his story. As we strolled together, Noah opened up about his previous job where he had managed a store. Due to an unfortunate incident, the store lost credibility and had to shut down. Noah took responsibility and was subsequently fired. After listening to his story, I felt compelled to share my reasons for working at the current restaurant. No, I began, I came here because... Upon hearing my explanation, Noah nodded understandingly. You did well, he said softly, offering words that warmed my heart. It was exactly what I needed to hear. Acknowledgement that despite hardships, my efforts were valued. I've faced betrayal too, I admitted, recalling my own difficult journey. It wasn't easy. Noah smiled warmly in response. Later that day, Noah confessed something to me. This is how I am, he said, but I hope we can get along well. Encouraged by his honesty, I replied, let's do our best together. From then on, I found myself teased more than ever by the part-timers at the shop, but I was genuinely happy. Days passed, filled with laughter and camaraderie. Then, unexpectedly, I received a second proposal in my life. Of course, I accepted Noah's proposal with a resolve to find happiness, believing in our future together. When I visited my parents for the first time in a while, they were overjoyed. I shared everything with them, and they expressed their happiness, urging Noah, please make our daughter happy. I will definitely make Emma happy, Noah replied confidently. We spent some time together, but then my father hesitantly mentioned, it seems Evelyn and Mike are planning a wedding ceremony. They might send an invitation. but you don't have to force yourself. But I was past caring about Evelyn and Mike. I was happy now, and I wanted to share the happiness. When I told my parents this, they said, "If you say so, Emma. No, we're counting on you if anything happens." A few days later, I received a wedding invitation from Evelyn. Of course, I decided to attend and replied that Noah and I would be coming together. Knowing Evelyn was planning her wedding, Noah and I had already registered our marriage. We felt it would ease the burden on our parents and relatives from having multiple wedding ceremonies. We promised ourselves a celebration once things settled down. On the day of Evelyn's wedding, Noah and I arrived together at the venue. It was a long-awaited reunion with Evelyn and Mike, but Mike appeared somewhat worn out. During the family introductions, I proudly introduced Noah to Mike, saying, "This is my husband, Noah. He is my pride and joy." Evelyn's surprised expression when I introduced Noah was quite memorable. As the event unfolded, I had a strong urge to ask Mike about what had transpired between him and Evelyn on the day my parents and I were absent. At first, Mike seemed hesitant to talk about it, but gradually he opened up. He recounted how Evelyn, aware of my illness that day, had seized the opportunity. She brought strong alcohol and offered it to Mike, who wasn't used to drinking. After just a couple of cups, he became intoxicated. Taking advantage of his state, Evelyn began to seduce him. Mike, impaired by alcohol and unable to think clearly, succumbed to the temptation. Evelyn is attractive with a good figure, Mike explained, and I was in no state to resist her advances, despite our engagement. He apologized repeatedly, looking remorseful and diminished in my eyes, yet I found myself strangely indifferent. Hearing the truth was enough for me at that moment. Meanwhile, Noah and Evelyn were engaged in their own conversation nearby. I was curious about their discussion, but with Evelyn's wedding ceremony approaching, I decided to inquire later. As we headed home afterward, I asked Noah again, "Didn't you seem a bit angry when you were talking to Evelyn?" "Oh, I told you before, but actually she's the one who cheated on me when we were dating," Noah began, his expression clouded with frustration. "Not only that, but she's also the reason why I was fired from the shop where I used to work." I was taken aback. It's a small world, isn't it? Learning that Evelyn was responsible for Noah's shop closure surprised me even more. Intrigued, I asked him for more details. As Noah explained, Evelyn had begun an affair with a designer shortly after they started dating. She believed it would benefit her modeling career to be associated with someone in the industry. Noah found out about it accidentally, I learned, and naturally, he confronted Evelyn. But instead of admitting fault, Evelyn lashed out at Noah, and they broke up. Fueled by anger, Evelyn retaliated by creating a fake photo of contaminated food supposedly from Noah's restaurant and posted it on social media. With her substantial following as an amateur model, the photo quickly went viral. The negative publicity led to a drop in sales, Noah continued, and ultimately the shop had to close. I was blamed and fired. Noah's bitterness was palpable, but without knowing the true culprit, he had nowhere to direct his anger. It wasn't until a friend invited me for a drink, Noah recounted, that I learned about a conversation linking Evelyn to the demise of a restaurant due to false social media claims. Realizing Evelyn's betrayal and role in his downfall, Noah felt powerless. He decided to start anew in a different place, where fate eventually brought us together. I apologized to Noah, deeply troubled by my sister's actions that had upended his life. "I'm sorry for what my sister did," I said, unsure of how he would react. "I didn't know what to do. I thought you might hate me." "No, Emma," Noah reassured me kindly. "It's in the past. It's not your fault." His forgiveness lifted a weight off my shoulders, and together we resolved to pursue happiness once more. Later, Evelyn faced her comeuppance. She chose our current residence for a photo shoot, aiming to bolster her modeling aspirations with a gravure session amidst its lush greenery. Little did she know, the restaurant she selected for a meal during this visit was Noah's former establishment. Although I had already left Noah's employ by then, I heard about what transpired later. Upon recognizing each other, Noah firmly denied Evelyn entry into his restaurant. "I can't allow you in," Noah stated firmly to Evelyn and the photo shoot staff, citing her past actions and the repercussions he had endured. Stunned and pale, Evelyn had no retort. Noah even threatened to expose her past to the company president where she was about to join, which ultimately led to her losing the gravure shoot deal and tarnishing her reputation in the industry. Furthermore, News came that Mike's company performance had faltered, putting him at risk of demotion. Even my mother expressed concern for their uncertain futures. Despite these events, Noah and I continued to find happiness in each other every day. Today marks our long-awaited wedding day, a testament to our perseverance through adversity. As we celebrated, colleagues from the restaurant where we first met congratulated us, repeating a familiar line amidst laughter. Noah and I solemnly vowed before everyone to cherish our family and uphold our happiness, now and always.
The inheritance check sat on my kitchen counter, mocking me with its emptiness. $300,000. Gone. Not stolen by a stranger or lost to some elaborate scam, but swindled away by my own sister. I'm Emily, and until yesterday, I thought I knew what family meant. You can't just take what was meant for me. My voice cracked as I confronted Ainsley in our childhood home's living room. She sat there, perfectly composed in her designer outfit, probably bought with my money. The will didn't specify you, she said coolly, examining her manicured nails. Aunt Caroline left it to her beloved niece. I'm her niece too. You know she meant me. I was the one who visited her every weekend. I was the one who helped with her medical appointments. I was the perfect niece? Ainsley's eyes flashed. Some of us had to work, Emily. We can't all spend our time playing favorite with rich relatives. The irony of her words hit like a slap. I'd been working 2 jobs while finishing my architecture degree, while Ainsley hopped between marketing positions, living off our parents' generosity. Working? I laughed bitterly. Is that what you call maxing out mom and dad's credit cards? The front door opened, and Cynthia, my mentor from the architecture firm, stepped in. I'd called her in desperation, needing someone who understood contract law. Emily? She looked between us, her experienced eyes taking in the scene. I came as soon as I could. Ainsley straightened. This is a family matter. Family? I grabbed the empty inheritance check. You forged my signature, Ainsley. You convinced the executor you were me. Cynthia's sharp intake of breath cut through the tension. That's a serious accusation. It's also unprovable. Ainsley stood, smoothing her skirt. The money's been transferred. It's done. My hands shook as I reached for my phone. I'm calling the police. Go ahead, Ainsley challenged. Drag our family through a scandal. Make Mom cry more than she already has. Besides, she smiled sweetly, I've already spent most of it. Cynthia placed a steady hand on my arm. Emily, wait, let's think this through. But I was already dialing. Ainsley's face paled slightly, but she maintained her composure. Mom and Dad will never forgive you. I paused, finger hovering over the call button. She was right. Our parents would be devastated. They'd already lost so much trying to keep our family afloat. You're really going to stand there and blackmail me with our parents' happiness? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. I'm being practical. Something you never learned. Ainsley grabbed her purse. Face it, Emily. You're too soft for the real world. That money would have been wasted on your little dream projects. Cynthia stepped forward. Dreams like the sustainable housing initiative she's been developing? The one that could revolutionize affordable housing in this city? Ainsley faltered for a moment, but quickly recovered. Whatever. What's done is done. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I opened it, barely registering the words through my anger. Get out, I said quietly. This is my house too. Get out, I screamed, my voice raw with emotion. You're not my sister anymore. You're just a thief in designer clothes. Ainsley's mask cracked slightly. For a moment, I saw something. Regret? Fear? But then it was gone, replaced by cold determination. She walked to the door, pausing only briefly. You'll thank me someday, when you learn how the world really works. After she left, Cynthia read the text over my shoulder. Emily, this could change everything. I nodded numbly, reading it again. Isaiah Murphy, head of Murphy & Associates, wanted to meet about leading their new cityscape project, the biggest architectural opportunity in the city's history. The universe has interesting timing, Cynthia said softly. Maybe this is your real inheritance. I wiped my eyes, straightening my shoulders. Maybe it is. I looked around the living room, at the family photos mocking me from the walls. I need to pack. You're moving out? I can't stay here. Not with her. I met Cynthia's concerned gaze. I thought I knew my sister, but the Ainsley I grew up with, she died today, along with every happy memory I had of us. Cynthia helped me pack that night. As we loaded the last box into my car, my phone buzzed again. Isaiah wanted to meet tomorrow morning. You know what they say, Cynthia smiled, hugging me goodbye. Success is the best revenge. I watched our childhood home fade in my rearview mirror, each mile putting distance between me and the betrayal. Aunt Caroline had always said everything happens for a reason. Maybe she was right. Maybe losing my inheritance would lead me to something better, something Ainsley couldn't steal. But first, I had a meeting to prepare for. The Whitfield Tower will redefine our city's skyline. Isaiah gestured at the blueprints spread across the conference room table. And I want you to lead it, Emily. I tried to keep my hands from shaking as I traced the preliminary sketches. This wasn't just a building. It was a 40-story statement of innovation and sustainability, the kind of project architects dream about. Why me? I asked. There must be dozens of more experienced... I've seen your work, Isaiah interrupted. That sustainable housing concept Cynthia showed me, that's exactly the fresh perspective we need. He leaned forward. This is a chance to make history, Emily. Are you in? Absolutely. The word came out before I could overthink it. Perfect. Isaiah stood, straightening his tie. Team meeting in 10 minutes. Time to meet your crew. I followed him down the sleek hallway, my heels clicking against marble floors. After a sleepless night in my new apartment, this felt surreal. Yesterday, I'd lost everything. Today, I was about to lead the biggest project of my career. Isaiah pushed open the glass doors to the main conference room. Everyone, meet your new project lead. The words died in my throat. There, sitting among the faces turning to greet me, was Ainsley. Our eyes met. Her perfect composure slipped for just a second, showing the same shock I felt. Then her mask was back, professional smile firmly in place. Emily, she said smoothly. What a surprise. Isaiah looked between us. You two know each other? We've worked together before, I said before Ainsley could speak. Two could play at this game. The next hour was torture. I introduced myself, outlined my vision for the project, and assigned initial tasks, all while pretending my sister wasn't sitting there, wearing another expensive outfit bought with my stolen money. After the meeting, Cynthia pulled me into her office. You didn't tell me Ainsley worked here. I didn't know. I collapsed into a chair. She must have started recently. God, Cynthia, what am I going to do? Your job, she said firmly. You earned this position. Don't let her take this from you, too. A knock at the door made us both jump. It was Kinley Whitfield, our client, elegant in a power suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Emily, she smiled warmly, Isaiah speaks highly of you. Do you have a moment? I followed her to her temporary office, trying to look more confident than I felt. She settled behind her desk, studying me. I'll be direct, she said. This project means everything to my company. I need to know you can handle it. I can, I said firmly. My team? About your team, she interrupted. That young woman, Ainsley, she's been pushing some interesting ideas, very ambitious. My stomach churned. Of course, Ainsley had already started networking with the client. I'm familiar with her work, I said carefully. Good. Kinley smiled. Because she'll be your primary liaison with my office. I think you two will work well together. I managed to maintain my professional smile until I reached the bathroom. Then I gripped the sink, fighting back tears of frustration. The door swung open. Ainsley walked in, checking her lipstick in the mirror. Congratulations on the promotion, she said casually. Though I have to wonder how you managed it without Aunt Caroline's money. Unlike you, I earn things honestly. She turned to face me. You know, I was surprised to see you here. I thought you'd be too busy filing police reports. Don't worry, I straightened, meeting her gaze. I found a better way to handle things. Oh? Her eyebrow arched. And what's that? You'll see. I moved toward the door, then paused. By the way, Ainsley, I noticed some errors in your preliminary reports. Fix them before tomorrow's review. Her face flushed. You can't. I'm your supervisor now, I cut her off. I can and I will. Welcome to the real world, sis. I left her standing there, satisfaction warming my chest. Back at my new desk, I found a message from Trey, Ainsley's friend from the marketing department. Heard about the family reunion, he wrote. Need a drink after work? God, yes, I replied. My computer pinged with another message, this time from Isaiah. He wanted the first design presentation by Friday. 3 days to prove I deserved this position. I opened my design software, pushing thoughts of Ainsley aside. She'd stolen my inheritance, but she couldn't steal my talent or my determination. Emily, Cynthia appeared at my door. Kinley wants to discuss the environmental impact reports. I grabbed my tablet, squaring my shoulders. Let's go. As I walked past Ainsley's desk, I saw her struggling with the corrections I'd requested. For the first time since the inheritance theft, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe karma was real after all. You're pushing her too hard, Cynthia warned, sliding a coffee across my desk. The sustainability analysis you assigned Ainsley, that's senior architect level work. She wanted to play in the big leagues, I replied, reviewing Ainsley's latest report. Red marks covered nearly every page. Now she gets to prove herself. This isn't about proving anything, it's about revenge. Before I could respond, Trey appeared in my doorway, his usually cheerful face serious. Emily, we need to talk about Ainsley's workload. Not you too. I rubbed my temples. She has the same assignments as everyone else. Really? He dropped a stack of papers on my desk. Because I've seen everyone's task lists. You're giving her the most complex calculations, the tightest deadlines. If she can't handle it, she shouldn't be on this project. She's been here until midnight every night this week. That's not my problem. But even as I said it, something twisted in my gut. The dark circles under Ainsley's eyes hadn't escaped my notice. Trey leaned forward. Look, I get it. She hurt you. But this isn't you, Emily. You don't know me, I snapped. I know you used to help her with her math homework. I know you stayed up all night when she had the flu senior year. I know. That was before she stole my future. The office went quiet. I'd spoken louder than intended, and through the glass walls I could see several heads turn our way, including Ainsley's. Cynthia closed my office door. Emily, listen to yourself. You're letting this consume you. Meeting in 5 minutes. Isaiah's voice carried through the office. Bring the updated designs. I gathered my materials, avoiding both Cynthia and Trey's concerned looks. In the conference room, Ainsley sat as far from me as possible, her hands shaking slightly as she arranged her papers. All right, team, Isaiah began. Kinley's arriving in 20 minutes. Where are we with the environmental impact studies? All eyes turned to Ainsley. She stood fumbling with her presentation. The calculations show, the sustainability metrics indicate. She trailed off, staring at her numbers. Is there a problem? Isaiah asked. Ainsley's voice cracked. I need more time to verify the data. More time? Kinley's voice cut through the room. None of us had heard her enter. I thought these reports were ready. Ainsley's face went pale. They will be. I just need to double check. Ms. Whitfield, I interrupted, standing. I can explain the current findings. For the next 15 minutes, I walked through the environmental impact analysis, covering for Ainsley's incomplete work. I knew these calculations inside out. I'd done similar ones for my sustainable housing project. After the meeting, Kinley pulled me aside. Impressive save, though I'm concerned about your team's preparation. It won't happen again, I assured her. See that it doesn't. This project can't afford mistakes. I found Ainsley in the break room, hands wrapped around a cold cup of coffee. For a moment, I saw the little girl who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. You're lucky I could cover for you, I said, keeping my voice neutral. Lucky? She looked up, eyes red-rimmed. You set me up to fail. I gave you work you claimed you could handle. Because you knew I couldn't. She stood abruptly, coffee sloshing over the rim. You're trying to humiliate me, to prove a point. The only point here is that actions have consequences. Like you're so perfect? Her voice rose. You think I don't know about the calls from debt collectors? The maxed out credit cards? At least I'm doing something with the money. By sabotaging my career? By investing in my future. Something you never had the guts to do. We were attracting attention again. Through the glass, I could see Cynthia watching with concern. Fix those calculations, I said quietly, or I'll have to report your performance to Isaiah. You wouldn't. Try me. I turned to leave, but her next words stopped me cold. Aunt Caroline would be ashamed of you right now. The rage that filled me was instant and overwhelming. I spun around, ready to unleash years of pent-up resentment, but Cynthia appeared between us. "Emily, Kinley needs you. Now." I let her lead me away, my hands shaking with suppressed emotion. "This has to stop," Cynthia said once we were alone. "You're both going to destroy yourselves, and this project. She started this. And you're finishing it?" Cynthia shook her head. "The Emily I know builds things. She doesn't tear them down." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A message from Isaiah. "Progress review tomorrow. All team members, no exceptions." I looked through the glass at Ainsley, now bent over her desk, frantically working on those calculations. The satisfaction I'd expected to feel was replaced by something else, something that felt uncomfortably like guilt. Maybe Cynthia was right. Maybe we were both losing ourselves in this war. But I was too far in to stop now. Wasn't I? The progress review was a disaster. Ainsley's hands trembled as she presented her revised calculations, dark circles prominent under her eyes. She'd clearly been up all night, but it wasn't enough. "These numbers still don't add up," Isaiah said, frowning at the screen. "The energy efficiency ratings are inconsistent with the building's design parameters." "I can explain," Ainsley started, but her voice cracked. She reached for her water bottle, knocking it over instead. Water spilled across her papers, bleeding the ink into unreadable smudges. The room fell silent. I watched her trying to salvage the wet documents, and suddenly I was 12 again, watching 9-year-old Ainsley cry over spilled paint on her art project. I'd helped her recreate it that night, staying up until dawn to finish. "Perhaps," Kinley said, breaking the silence, "we should take a brief recess." As everyone filed out, Ainsley remained frozen, staring at the ruined papers. Without thinking, I stayed behind. "Here," I handed her some tissues. "Start with the edges first." She looked up, surprise replacing the panic in her eyes. "Why are you helping me?" "I'm not, I stopped, noticing something in her calculations. "Wait, you're using the wrong formula here. The sustainability matrix needs to account for solar gain." "What?" I pulled up a chair, pointing to the numbers. "Look, you're calculating total energy output, but you need to factor in the seasonal variations, like when we used to track the sunlight for Mom's garden, remember?" A ghost of a smile crossed her face. "You made me graph everything. I hated it. You still got the best tomatoes in the neighborhood." For a moment, we were just sisters again, sharing a memory. Then reality crashed back as Isaiah returned. "Everything all right in here?" Ainsley straightened, professional mask back in place. "Yes, sir. Emily was just clarifying some calculations." "Good, because we need these numbers finalized by tomorrow. The board presentation—" "Board presentation?" I interrupted. "I thought that was next week." "They moved it up, and they're considering internal promotions based on this project's success." He gave us both a meaningful look before leaving. Ainsley's expression changed. "A promotion? Don't even think about it," I warned, standing up. "You can barely handle your current responsibilities." "I can handle anything you throw at me," she shot back, but her voice wavered. I gathered my things, pausing at the door. "Prove it. Redo those calculations. Correctly this time." Back at my desk, I found an old photo had fallen from my planner. Ainsley and me at her college graduation, both smiling, her arms thrown around my neck. I'd paid for her cap and gown with my overtime money. "You're still wearing it," Cynthia said, making me jump. She pointed to my wrist, where Ainsley's graduation gift, a simple silver bracelet, still rested. "I forgot to take it off," I muttered, but we both knew it was a lie. "The board's looking for someone to head their new sustainability division," she said casually. "Triple the salary, corner office." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I saw you in there, helping her. The real you slipped out for a minute." My phone buzzed. A text from Trey. "Ainsley's crying in the bathroom again. This has to stop." "I'm not the bad guy here," I said, but the words felt hollow. "No?" Cynthia picked up the graduation photo. "Then why does it feel like you're both losing?" Before I could respond, Kinley appeared. "Emily, a word?" In her office, she got straight to the point. "I'm concerned about the team dynamics." "Everything's fine. Don't insult my intelligence." She leaned forward. "I've built my career reading people. You and Ainsley? There's history there. Bad history." I stayed silent. "Here's the thing, Emily. You're brilliant. Your designs are revolutionary. But if personal drama compromises this project, she left the threat unspoken. Walking back to my office, I passed Ainsley's desk. She was on the phone, voice tight with stress. Please, just another week. No, I understand the payment terms, but yes, I know how much I owe. I stopped, recognizing the tone of someone drowning in debt. The same tone I'd used countless times before Aunt Caroline's inheritance was supposed to save me. Back at my desk, I pulled up Ainsley's latest design contributions. Behind the errors and rushed work, I saw flashes of genuine talent, ideas that could work with the right guidance. My computer pinged, an email about the board presentation. The promotion would change everything, a way out of my own financial mess, a chance to prove myself. But as I looked at the graduation photo, another memory surfaced. Ainsley at 6, holding my hand on her first day of school. Don't let go, Emmy, she'd begged. I'm scared. I won't, I'd promised. Big sisters don't let go. Except I had. We both had. My phone buzzed again, Isaiah requesting the final presentation materials. I looked through the glass at Ainsley, still on the phone, shoulders slumped in defeat. The promotion could be my revenge, my justice, or it could be something else entirely. I just had to decide which sister I wanted to be. You need to see this, Trey said, dropping a stack of papers on my desk after hours. The office was empty except for us and the cleaning crew. I'm busy with the board presentation. These are Ainsley's bank statements. I pushed them away. I don't want to see. Look at them, Emily, please. Reluctantly, I glanced at the top page. Multiple overdraft fees, loan payments, credit card bills with astronomical interest rates. She's drowning, Trey said quietly. The inheritance money? Most of it went to pay off your parents' mortgage. They were about to lose the house. The words hit me like a physical blow. What? Your dad's business was failing. They'd refinanced 3 times. Ainsley found out when she overheard them talking about bankruptcy. I remembered Dad's mysterious business trips last year, Mom's forced cheerfulness, the way they'd stopped hosting family dinners. Why didn't they tell me? The same reason you never told them about your student loan struggles. Trey sat down. Pride, protection, pick one. But why didn't Ainsley just tell me the truth? Would you have agreed to give up your dream project money to save their house? I wanted to say yes, but we both knew the truth. That sustainable housing initiative had been everything to me. She's not sleeping, Trey continued, barely eating. Between the project workload and the guilt. Guilt? I laughed bitterly. She doesn't feel guilty. Really? He pulled out his phone, showing me a text conversation. Ainsley's messages were time-stamped 3 a.m., filled with self-loathing and regret. I destroyed my relationship with Emily forever, one read, but I couldn't let Mom and Dad lose everything. My throat tightened. She still had no right. A crash from the hallway interrupted us. We rushed out to find Ainsley on the floor, surrounded by scattered papers and her broken laptop. I'm fine, she said quickly, trying to stand, but she swayed, grabbing the wall for support. When's the last time you ate? Trey demanded. I had coffee. Coffee isn't food, Ains. I have to finish these revisions, she mumbled. The board presentation is in 2 days, I found myself saying, and you're no good to anyone if you collapse. They both looked at me in surprise. Come on, I sighed. There's a diner around the corner. We'll get food and then... I hesitated. Then we need to talk. 20 minutes later, we sat in a worn booth, Ainsley picking at a grilled cheese sandwich while I stirred my coffee. Why didn't you tell me about Mom and Dad? I finally asked. She stared at her plate. You were so excited about your project. Every time you talked about it, your whole face lit up. I couldn't... So you decided stealing was better? I decided saving our parents from homelessness was better. She pushed her plate away. You don't know what it was like finding Dad crying in his office, watching Mom try to sell her jewelry. I had to do something. We could have figured it out together. Like you figured out your student loans, your credit card debt? She met my eyes. I saw the bills, Emily. You were drowning, too. I fell silent, remembering those desperate years of juggling payments, eating ramen, working multiple jobs. I know what I did was wrong, Ainsley whispered. I hate myself for it every day, but I'd do it again to keep our family from falling apart. And now you're falling apart instead. She wiped her eyes. I'm fine. No, you're not, and neither am I. I pulled out my phone, showing her the promotion email. The board's looking for someone to head their sustainability division. You deserve it, she said quietly. You're brilliant, Emily. Always have been. So are you. I surprised myself by meaning it. When you're not trying to prove something, your designs are innovative, different. She laughed weakly. Is this where you tell me you're firing me? No. I took a deep breath. This is where I tell you I'm going to help you fix those calculations. Properly this time. Her fork clattered to the table. What? The promotion isn't worth destroying what's left of us, and maybe... I twisted the silver bracelet on my wrist. Maybe it's time we both stopped drowning. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I'm so sorry, Emmy, for everything. I know. I reached across the table, squeezing her hand. We've got a lot to work through, but right now you need to eat that sandwich. We have a presentation to save. Trey, who'd been quietly watching, smiled. Does this mean no more midnight crying sessions? Shut up. Ainsley threw a napkin at him, laughing through her tears. As we left the diner, my phone buzzed. A text from Cynthia. Sometimes the biggest victories aren't the ones we plan for. Looking at Ainsley, exhausted but finally eating, I thought about Aunt Caroline, about family, about forgiveness. Maybe the real inheritance wasn't the money at all. Maybe it was the chance to rebuild what we'd broken. No, absolutely not. Kinley slammed her hand on the conference table. We are not redesigning the entire west facade 12 hours before the board presentation. I shared a worried glance with Ainsley. We'd been working through the night, our temporary truce tested by endless coffee and mounting pressure. Now, at 7 a.m., our client was threatening to derail everything. The current design doesn't maximize natural light, Kinley continued pacing. The board won't approve it. But changing it now would compromise the structural integrity, I argued. Then fix it, Kinley snapped. That's what I'm paying you for. After she stormed out, Ainsley slumped in her chair. We're screwed. No, I pulled up our design software. We're not. Remember that solution you proposed last week? The one with the stepped windows? Her eyes widened. You said it was too risky. It was. But right now, risky might be our only option. For the next hour, we reworked the design, our old rhythm returning surprisingly easily. Ainsley's creative approach balanced my technical precision, just like when we used to build elaborate blanket forts as kids. There, Ainsley pointed at the screen. If we angle the panels like this, we can increase light penetration without compromising support, I finished. It could work. Could? Isaiah appeared behind us, making us both jump. We need better than could for the board. It will work, I said firmly, but we need the whole team. Isaiah studied us for a moment, then nodded. You have 4 hours. The office transformed into organized chaos. Trey coordinated with contractors, running cost analyses. Cynthia helped us refine the technical specifications. Even the cleaning staff pitched in, keeping us supplied with coffee and snacks. Your calculations were right, I told Ainsley as we fine-tuned the design. About the solar gain, I just didn't want to admit it. She looked up, surprised. Really? Really? You see things differently than I do. Maybe that's not bad? A small smile crossed her face. Remember when I redesigned your treehouse blueprints? You added a secret trap door, I laughed. Dad nearly had a heart attack. But it worked. Yeah, I said softly. It did. The moment was interrupted by Kinley's return. She studied our new design in silence, her expression unreadable. Well, I asked finally. It's unexpected. She turned to face us. Bold, innovative, possibly brilliant or completely insane. Sometimes those are the same thing, Ainsley said. Kinley's lips twitched. You sound like my daughter. She straightened her jacket. Make it work. The board meets at 2. As she left, Isaiah called everyone together. 4 teams, 2 hours. Emily, Ainsley, you're presenting. Both of us? Ainsley asked. Problem with that? We looked at each other. No, I said. No problem. The next 2 hours passed in a blur of last-minute adjustments and presentation prep. At one point, I found Ainsley in the break room, practicing her part. You're rushing the sustainability metrics, I said. I know, what if I mess up again? You won't. I handed her a granola bar. But eat something first. You're still too pale. She took it, hesitating. Emily, if this works, about the promotion, let's just get through today. The boardroom was intimidating, all dark wood and stern faces. As we set up our presentation, I noticed Ainsley's hands shaking slightly. Under the table, I reached over and squeezed her hand once, like I used to do before her school plays. She squeezed back. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, we'd like to present a revolutionary approach to the Whitfield Tower design. For the next 30 minutes, we tag-teamed the presentation. Ainsley handled the creative vision while I covered the technical details. When questions came, we fielded them together, our different perspectives creating a more complete picture. This is unusual, one board member said finally, but impressive, very impressive. Kinley was beaming. Isaiah looked proud. Even Cynthia, watching from the back, was wiping her eyes. As we packed up, Ainsley turned to me. That felt right, I suggested. Yeah. She fiddled with her presentation notes. Listen, about the promotion. Mrs. Stanley, a board member approached. Both of you, we'd like to discuss something. We followed him to a smaller conference room where several board members waited. We've been considering the new sustainability division, he began, and after today's presentation, we'd like to propose something different. I held my breath. We'd like to offer you both positions. Co-directors, your different approaches, working together, could be exactly what this company needs. Ainsley and I stared at each other, months of anger and hurt colliding with decades of sisterhood. Well, he asked, what do you say? The answer, I realized, would change everything, again. But this time, we'd face it together. Co-directors? I paced Cynthia's office after the meeting. It's insane. We can barely work together on one project. You did today, she pointed out. That was different. We were desperate. Were you? She raised an eyebrow. Or did you finally stop fighting each other and start fighting for something? Before I could respond, Ainsley burst in. We need to talk. I'll give you two some privacy, Cynthia said, heading for the door. No, stay, Ainsley said. Please, we might need a witness. I crossed my arms. A witness for what? Ainsley pulled an envelope from her bag. This is a cashier's check for the inheritance money. My heart stopped. What? I've been working with a financial advisor. Sold my car, my designer clothes, took out a loan. She held out the envelope. It's not all of it yet, but it's a start. My hands shook as I took it. Why now? Because I can't start something new while carrying old guilt. She met my eyes. I was wrong, Emily. So wrong. And I'm not asking for forgiveness, but I am asking for a chance to make it right. By throwing money at it? No. She took a deep breath. By being honest about everything. For the next hour, she laid it all out. The desperate phone call from Mom about the house, Dad's failing business, the mounting debts, her own struggles with feeling second best. I convinced myself I was doing the right thing, she said, wiping tears. That saving the house was worth losing my sister. But it wasn't. Nothing was worth that. Why didn't you just talk to me? Because you always fix everything. She stood, frustrated. You're the responsible one, the successful one. I wanted to be the hero for once, to prove I could solve problems too. By creating bigger ones? I know I screwed up everything, and now they're offering us this amazing opportunity and I don't deserve it and... Stop. I held up my hand. Just stop. The office fell silent. Through the glass walls, I could see our colleagues trying not to stare. You're right, I said finally. You screwed up, massively, but maybe I did too. With the revenge, the impossible assignments. I became someone I didn't like very much. Cynthia cleared her throat. If I may, I've watched you both these past weeks. The anger, the competition, but also the potential. Today proved what you can accomplish together. It was one presentation, I argued. It was more than that, Ainsley said quietly. It was us, the real us, before money and jealousy and stupid pride got in the way. My phone buzzed, a text from Mom. Heard about your promotion opportunity, both of you, so proud. They know, Ainsley said, seeing my expression. I told them everything last night, about the inheritance, the house, all of it. How did they take it? Dad cried, Mom yelled. Then they both hugged me and said they'd rather lose the house than see their daughters destroy each other. Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. They're selling the house anyway, moving to something smaller. They want us to focus on healing, not debt. I looked at the check in my hands, at my sister's tear-stained face, at the photo of us still sitting on my desk. The board wants an answer by tomorrow, I said. I know. She straightened. And whatever you decide, I'll respect it. If you want the position alone, it's yours. I can find another job. That's not... I stopped, frustrated. This isn't about the job anymore, is it? No, she whispered. It's not. Cynthia stood. I'm going to get coffee, lots of coffee. You two, figure this out. After she left, Ainsley and I stared at each other across the office. Years of love and hurt and competition hung between us. Remember when we were kids, I said slowly, and we'd build those crazy Lego cities? You always did the structure, I did the decorations. And they always worked better together than apart. She caught her breath. Emily, I'm still angry, I said firmly. This isn't a magical fix. We have a lot to work through. I know. And if we do this, there have to be rules, boundaries, complete honesty. Hope flickered in her eyes. Does that mean... It means I'm willing to try. For the project. For us. She started to smile, then stopped herself. What about the inheritance money? I looked at the check again. Keep it. Use it to pay back your loans. Consider it an investment in our future. Our future? Yeah. I managed a small smile. After all, co-directors should start with a clean slate. She launched herself at me, hugging me fiercely. For a moment, I stiffened. Then slowly, I hugged her back. Outside the office, I saw Cynthia watching, coffee forgotten in her hands. She gave me a proud nod. Maybe we were crazy. Maybe this would all fall apart. But maybe, just maybe, we could build something stronger than before. Together. It's perfect, Kinley breathed, staring up at the nearly completed Whitfield Tower. Absolutely perfect. The morning sun caught the stepped windows of the west facade, sending ribbons of light dancing across the plaza. Around us, construction crews were putting the finishing touches on the sustainability features Ainsley and I had designed together. Not quite perfect, I said, checking my tablet. The solar panels on the south side still need adjusting. Always the perfectionist, Ainsley teased, joining us. The energy efficiency ratings are already exceeding projections. Speaking of projections, Kinley turned to face us. The board is very interested in expanding this design concept to other cities. My heart skipped. Other cities? They're calling it the future of sustainable architecture. Your future, specifically. She smiled. Assuming you're both interested? Ainsley and I exchanged glances. 6 months of working together as co-directors had taught us to read each other's expressions. We'll need to discuss it, I said carefully. Of course. Kinley checked her watch. The ribbon-cutting ceremony is in 2 hours. Try to decide before then? After she left, Ainsley and I walked the plaza, our heels clicking on the recycled glass pavement we'd insisted on using. Remember when we first saw this site? Ainsley asked. It was just an empty lot. Now it's going to change how cities think about sustainable development. I touched one of the living wall panels. All because you insisted on integrating vertical gardens, and because you figured out how to make them work structurally. She paused. We make a good team, don't we? When we're not trying to destroy each other, yeah, we do. A construction worker called us over to check some final details. As we worked, I noticed Ainsley kept checking her phone. Everything okay? Mom and Dad are on their way, she bit her lip. With some news about the house? My stomach tightened. Despite their plans to downsize, our parents had struggled to sell the family home. Good news or bad news? They wouldn't say, but she showed me her phone. Trey's been helping them with the listings. I smiled. Trey had become a regular at our weekly family dinners, his easy humor helping bridge the awkward moments as we rebuilt our relationships. Ms. Emily, a worker called down from above. We found something in the time capsule wall. During construction, we'd created a space for the community to leave messages for future generations. But this was different, an envelope with my name on it. I recognized the handwriting immediately. Aunt Caroline. How? I looked at Ainsley, who suddenly seemed very interested in her shoes. I found it in her things, she admitted. After everything. I asked Cynthia to help me hide it here, for today. With trembling fingers, I opened the letter. My dearest Emily, if you're reading this, you've completed your first major project. I always knew you would. Your talent isn't just in designing buildings, it's in building connections. Between spaces, between ideas, and most importantly, between people. Money can start dreams, but it can't sustain them. That takes something stronger. Something I see every time you help your sister with her homework, or when she makes you laugh after a hard day. Take care of each other. Build something wonderful together. All my love, Aunt Caroline. I wiped my eyes, smudging my mascara. You didn't read it? Ainsley shook her head. It wasn't mine to read. Before I could respond, our parents arrived. Mom was practically bouncing with excitement. We sold the house, she announced, to a lovely young family, and, she glanced at Dad. We found something perfect for us, a fixer-upper. A what? Ainsley and I said simultaneously. Dad grinned. We thought maybe our architect daughters could help us design some renovations, together. I looked at Ainsley, seeing my own smile reflected back. I think we can handle that. Speaking of handling things, Cynthia appeared, looking elegant despite the construction dust. The press is arriving for the ceremony. As we headed inside to prepare, Ainsley grabbed my arm. About Kinley's offer? The multi-city expansion? Are we ready for that? To take our partnership bigger? I thought about Aunt Caroline's letter, about connections and buildings and sisters who could be both rivals and allies. I think, I said slowly, that we're ready for anything, as long as we do it together. She hugged me quickly. I love you, Emmy. Love you too, brat. I pulled back. Now come on, we have a building to launch. The ceremony was a blur of speeches and photographs, but one moment stood crystal clear. Ainsley and I cutting the ribbon together, our free hands clasped between us. Above us, the tower we designed caught the light, sending it dancing across the city. Not just a building, but a bridge, between past and future, between sustainability and innovation, between two sisters who'd found their way back to each other. And as cameras flashed and applause thundered, I felt Aunt Caroline's presence, smiling down on the something wonderful we'd built together. Not just a tower reaching for the sky, but a foundation strong enough to support whatever came next.
The mahogany conference table stretched before me like a canyon of polished wood, making the single envelope at its center seem impossibly small. $5. That's what my father left me. $5 and a note that read, "For my daughter, who always asks the right questions. I'm Samantha, an investigative journalist, and right now I'm watching my stepsister Kaya bounce in her chair like she just won the lottery. Which, essentially, she has." As stated in the will, Mary, our family lawyer, continued in her measured tone, the Burke estate, including all properties, investments, and business holdings, is to be transferred in its entirety to Miss Kaya Jones. This can't be right. The words escaped my lips before I could stop them. Dad always said what, Sam? Kaya's perfectly manicured fingers drummed against the table. That you were his favorite? That you deserved everything because you're so principled? She practically spat the last word. I gripped the arms of my chair, feeling the leather crack under my fingernails. He believed in responsibility, Kaya, in using wealth to make a difference, not for shopping sprees and Instagram posts. Ladies, Mary interrupted, adjusting her glasses. There's more to discuss. But Kaya was already on her phone, probably texting her entire contact list. Oh my God, wait until everyone hears about this. I need to call my interior designer. The morning sun streaming through the office windows caught the diamond studs in her ears. Dad's last birthday gift to her. I remembered how he'd looked when she opened them, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. There are certain conditions, Mary pressed on, but Kaya was barely listening. Conditions? Whatever, I'll have my people handle it. She stood up, smoothing her designer dress. I need to go plan my celebration party. You'll get the invitation, Sam, if you promise not to be such a downer. I stayed seated as Kaya clicked her way out of the room on her ridiculous heels, leaving behind a cloud of expensive perfume and the echo of her self-satisfied laugh. Samantha. Mary's voice was softer now. Your father was a smart man, I cut in, unfolding the $5 bill. Too smart for this to be everything. Mary's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in her eyes. Sometimes things aren't what they appear. Like how he appeared to favor his stepdaughter over his own child? I stood up, gathering my bag. Or how he appeared to forget everything he ever taught me about responsibility and purpose. The note, Mary began, is cryptic and useless. I shoved it into my pocket, just like this whole process has been. As I reached the door, Mary called out, Your father kept detailed records of everything, Samantha. Everything. I turned back. What are you trying to tell me? She was already gathering her papers, not meeting my eyes. Nothing specific, just, you're a journalist. You know how to follow a paper trail. My phone buzzed. A text from my best friend Skylar. How'd it go? Want to grab coffee? I need to go, I told Mary, but paused at the threshold. Did he say anything? At the end? Mary looked up, her face carefully composed. He said you were your mother's daughter, that you'd understand when the time was right. My mother. The investigative reporter who'd exposed 3 major corruption cases before cancer took her. Dad had always said we shared the same fire, the same need to uncover the truth, the right questions, paper trails, understanding. Suddenly, the $5 felt heavier in my pocket. Thank you, Mary. I pulled out my phone to text Skylar back. Coffee, yes, and bring your laptop. We've got some digging to do. As I walked out of the law office, my stepsister's voice carried from the lobby, already planning her celebration. But for the first time since the reading began, I felt something other than anger. Dad had taught me that every story has layers, that truth hides in the details. And if there's one thing I know how to do, it's uncover the truth. I pulled out the note again, studying his familiar handwriting. The right questions. Well, here's my first one. What was my father really trying to tell me with this inheritance? Something tells me $5 is just the beginning of this story. Look at this. I turned my laptop screen towards Skylar, who was already on her 3rd espresso. Dad made monthly transfers to an account labeled Legacy Fund for the past 15 years. We'd commandeered our usual corner table at the daily grind, surrounded by empty coffee cups and scattered papers. 3 days had passed since the will reading, and I'd barely slept. How much are we talking about? Skylar leaned forward, her investigative instincts, honed from years as my research partner, kicking in. That's the thing. I pulled up another document. The amounts varied, but they always ended in 13 cents, every single transfer. 13 cents? Skylar's brow furrowed. That's deliberate, I finished. Dad never did anything by accident. My phone buzzed with another text from Kaya. Party this Saturday. Wear something fabulous. I ignored it. Have you talked to any of his old business partners? Skylar asked, pulling out her notebook. Most won't return my calls, but I did manage to get coffee with Talia yesterday. You know, the woman who used to run the company's community outreach program? The one Kaya fired last week? Bingo. I pulled out my recorder. Listen to this. Talia's voice crackled through the speaker. Your father was obsessed with this idea of empowering women in business. He kept talking about some grand plan, but the board always shut him down, said it wasn't profitable enough. Did he mention anything specific? My recorded voice asked. Just that he was working on something bigger, something that would change everything. But then, the recording trailed off. Then he got sick, Skylar finished softly. A barista approached with fresh coffees. You guys have been here for hours. Everything okay? Just fine, I smiled, sliding some papers over a particularly interesting bank statement. Working on a story. After she left, Skylar lowered her voice. What about Mary? The lawyer must know something. She's being careful, but yesterday she accidentally left this in my mailbox. I pulled out a sticky note with an address scrawled on it. Storage unit? Dad's private office, the one not even Kaya knows about. Skylar's eyes lit up. When are we going? Now. I started packing up my laptop. But first, what do you make of this? I showed her a photo from Dad's last charity gala. He stood with a group of women, all wearing silver pins shaped like keys. Could be nothing, Skylar said, but she was already grabbing her coat. Or could be everything. The storage facility was in an industrial part of town, far from the glossy high-rises where Dad had worked. Unit 13 on 13, of course. Your father really had a thing for 13, huh? Skylar commented as I input the code Mary had provided. The metal door rolled up with a groan, revealing walls lined with filing cabinets and a desk covered in papers. The air smelled like leather and old books, just like Dad's study used to. Start with the most recent files, I directed, moving toward the desk. Look for anything about the legacy fund or those silver keys. We worked in focused silence, the only sound the rustling of papers and occasional muttered observations. Then Skylar gasped, "Sam, you need to see this." She held up a leather-bound ledger. Inside, page after page listed women's names, dates, and amounts. In the margins were handwritten notes. Supporting daughter through medical school. Funding tech startup. Legal fees for workplace discrimination suit. He was helping them, I whispered. All of them. There's more. Skylar pointed to a sealed envelope taped to the back cover. My name was written on it in Dad's handwriting. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a silver key pin, identical to the ones from the photo, and another note. For my daughter who always asks the right questions. Sometimes the greatest legacy isn't what we leave behind, but what we set in motion. The key opens more than just doors. Dad. Sam. Skylar was staring at her phone. You need to see this too. She showed me a news alert. Burke Industries accused of systematic discrimination against female employees, multiple lawsuits pending. The company Kaya just inherited, I said slowly, has been secretly suppressing women while Dad was secretly supporting them. What are you going to do? I picked up the key pin, feeling its weight in my palm. Dad always said a good journalist follows the story wherever it leads. I think it's time to find out exactly what my sister inherited. This could get messy, Skylar warned. It already is. I clipped the pin to my jacket. But Dad left me this story for a reason, and I'm going to tell it. Looking around the room full of secrets, I finally understood. $5 wasn't my inheritance. The truth was, Kaya's inheritance celebration was exactly as tasteless as I expected. The mansion's marble foyer sparkled with champagne fountains and ice sculptures, while waiters circulated with trays of caviar and gold-dusted chocolates. I adjusted my simple black dress, feeling the silver key pin against my collar like armor. Miss, the service entrance is around back. A security guard stopped me at the door. She's my sister, Kaya's voice rang out. Let her in. She floated down the stairs in a dress that probably cost more than my yearly rent. Sam, you actually came, and you're wearing that. Wouldn't miss it, I smiled, noting how the company's top executives clustered around her like moths to a flame. Quite a party. Isn't it divine? Daddy would have loved it. She grabbed a champagne flute from a passing tray. Though maybe not the cost, but who's counting now? If she only knew what I'd discovered in the past week. The systematic discrimination, the buried harassment complaints, the suspicious firing of female executives, all while Dad had been secretly building his network of support for the very women his company had wronged. Speaking of counting, I said carefully, how are those quarterly reports looking? Kaya waved her hand dismissively. Ben handles all that boring stuff now. You remember Ben, right? From the board? Ben Nelson stood across the room, deep in conversation with other suits. The same Ben who'd orchestrated most of the discriminatory policies, according to Dad's files. Oh, I remember Ben. I touched my key pin. How's he adjusting to his new role? He's been amazing, Kaya beamed. Says we'll double profits by next quarter. Though honestly, I tune out when he talks numbers. Oh, you have to see what I'm doing with Daddy's old office. She dragged me upstairs, chattering about Italian marble and custom wallpaper, but I was watching the reactions to my presence, the nervous glances, the whispered conversations. They knew who I was, what I did for a living. We're gutting the whole floor, Kaya announced, throwing open the office door. That awful old desk is already gone. I stopped short. The desk? Dad's desk? That heavy wooden thing? Ben had it removed yesterday, said we needed a more modern look. My heart raced. That desk had hidden compartments. I'd watched Dad access them countless times as a child. Where is it now? Who knows? The salvage company took it. Sam, are you okay? You look weird. A commotion downstairs saved me from responding. We returned to find Ben making a toast. To new beginnings, he raised his glass, eyes fixed on me, and to leaving the past where it belongs. The crowd applauded. I grabbed a champagne flute and raised it back. To legacy, I countered loudly, and to asking the right questions. Ben's smile faltered slightly. Beside me, Kaya frowned. What's that supposed to mean? Just something Dad taught me. I pulled out my phone and showed her the news alert about the lawsuits. Like asking why our father's company has such an interesting pattern of treatment toward female employees. Kaya's face flushed. That's ridiculous. Ben said those claims are baseless. Did he? Interesting. I spotted Talia entering the party. Maybe we should ask her opinion. You invited her? Kaya hissed. She was fired for incompetence. Was she? Or was she fired because she knew too much? You're being dramatic. Kaya grabbed my arm. This is my night, Sam. Don't ruin it with your conspiracy theories. I gently removed her hand. You're right. It is your night, and everything that comes with it. The money, the power, the responsibility. It's all yours now, including whatever's been happening in that company. Is that a threat? No. I headed for the door, pausing to look back at my sister, suddenly seeming small among all her expensive decorations. It's a warning, because I don't think Dad left me $5 and a note just to be cruel. I think he was trying to tell me something. Sam, wait! But I was already walking out, texting Skylar. Need to find that desk. Tonight. My phone buzzed with her response. Already on it. You'll never guess who bought it. Behind me, the party continued, music and laughter spilling into the night. But underneath it all, I could feel something shifting, like the first tremors before an earthquake. Ben's voice carried from inside. Don't worry about her, Kaya. Everything's under control. I touched my key pin again, thinking of all those women in Dad's ledger. No, I whispered, it's really not. You bought Dad's desk? I stared at Mary across her home office, where the massive oak piece now dominated the room. Technically, my husband bought it at auction. She ran her hand along the worn surface. Beautiful craftsmanship. Shame to let it end up in some warehouse. Skylar circled the desk like a detective at a crime scene. The compartments you mentioned. Any idea how to access them? Dad always said the key opens more than just doors. I fingered the silver pin. Mary, did he ever mention? I can't tell you anything specific, she interrupted, but her eyes flickered to a particular spot on the desk. Attorney-client privilege. But I can leave you two alone with this lovely antique for a few minutes while I make coffee. The moment she left, Skylar and I began examining every inch of the desk. The wood was cool under my fingers as I traced the intricate carvings. Here, Skylar pointed to a tiny keyhole, almost invisible within a decorative flourish. Think your pin. The silver key slid in perfectly. With a soft click, a hidden panel sprang open, revealing a USB drive and another envelope. Sam, Mary called from the kitchen. How do you take your coffee? Black is fine. I quickly copied the drive's contents to my laptop, while Skylar photographed the documents from the envelope. We barely finished before Mary returned, carrying a tray. Her knowing smile suggested she'd given us exactly enough time. Find anything interesting? You could say that. I showed her the first document we'd discovered, a detailed report of systematic harassment cover-ups at Burke Industries, complete with dates, names, and amounts paid in hush money. Ben's signature is on everything, Skylar noted, scrolling through the files. He orchestrated the whole thing. And now he's controlling Kaya, I added, using her as a figurehead while he runs the company his way. My phone buzzed, a text from Talia. Need to talk. It's worse than we thought. Meet me at Riverside Park? Go, Mary said, reading my expression. But Sam, be careful. Ben has a lot to lose. 20 minutes later, I found Talia pacing by the river, clutching a manila envelope. I kept copies, she said without preamble. Of everything. The real reason they fired me? I was building a case. Your father was helping me, but then he got sick, I finished. And Ben saw an opportunity. He's been destroying evidence, threatening witnesses. But he missed these. She handed me the envelope. Your father said if anything happened to him, I should find you. Said you'd know what to do. I opened the envelope. Inside were dozens of statements from female employees, detailed accounts of discrimination, photos, emails, a paper trail of corruption that led straight to the top. There's more, Talia said. Ben's planning to sell off the company's charitable foundation, the one your father used to help women start their own businesses. Over my dead body, I pulled out my phone, dialing my editor's number. Time to write the story. Ben will fight back, Talia warned. Let him. I thought of Kaya, surrounded by sycophants at her party. My sister needs to see the truth, even if it hurts. Back at my apartment, Skylar helped me organize the evidence while I wrote. Hours blurred together as we built the case, connecting dots Dad had left for us to find. At 3 a.m., my phone rang. Kaya. Is it true? Her voice was shaky. Ben just called an emergency board meeting. Said you're planning to publish some ridiculous expose. It's all true, Kaya, every word. Check your email. I just sent you the draft. Silence stretched between us as she read. Then quietly, there are women I know on this list. Women who trusted the company, who trusted us. What do I do? She sounded young suddenly, uncertain. Ben says he'll handle it, but remember what Dad always said about handling things? Face the truth head on, she quoted softly, even when it hurts. Exactly. I took a deep breath. The story goes live in 6 hours. You need to decide which side of it you want to be on. Sam, She paused. I need to think. After she hung up, Skylar looked at me. Think she'll do the right thing? I don't know. I turned back to my laptop, fingers hovering over the keyboard. But Dad believed in giving people the chance to choose. That's what this whole elaborate plan was about. And if she chooses wrong? I thought of the ledger full of women's names, of Dad's secret support network, of the silver key that had unlocked more than just a desk. Then we do what journalists do, I said, starting to type. We tell the truth and let the chips fall where they may. The sun was rising as I wrote the final line, its light catching the silver key pin still on my collar. In 6 hours, everything would change. I just hoped Kaya was ready for what was coming. The story broke like a tsunami. Within hours of publication, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Social media exploded, and news vans crowded outside Burke Industries headquarters. Your article has over 1 million shares, Skylar announced, refreshing her screen. And Burke Truth is trending. I was about to respond when my office door burst open. Ben stormed in, his face red with rage, waving a printout of my article. You little snake, he snarled. Do you have any idea what you've done? Exposed the truth? I stood my ground as he loomed over my desk. Or did you think those women would stay silent forever? I've already called my lawyers. This piece is nothing but lies and speculation. Really? I pulled up the audio recorder on my phone. Want to explain that to the 12 former employees who went on record? Or should we discuss the evidence from Dad's desk? His face paled slightly. Your father was a fool who let sentiment cloud his business judgment. My father, I said quietly, was a better person than you'll ever be. We'll see how righteous you feel when I'm done with you. He jabbed a finger at me. I'm going to what, Ben? Kaya's voice cut through the tension. She stood in the doorway, holding a tablet displaying my article. Threaten my sister like you threatened all those other women? Ben's demeanor instantly changed. Kaya, sweetheart, don't let her manipulate you. This is just jealousy over the inheritance. Stop. Kaya's voice cracked. I've spent the last 6 hours reading everything. The lawsuits, the settlements, the threats. I found the files you thought you'd deleted. Whatever you think you found, I found the truth. She stepped into the office. And now I'm finding my backbone. You don't understand business, Ben sneered. Your father knew that. Why do you think he put me in charge? He didn't, I interjected. Show him, Kaya. With trembling hands, Kaya produced a document. My inheritance came with conditions. Dad left me controlling interest, but with a clause. Any major decisions require board approval. Care to guess who he designated as the deciding vote? The Women's Foundation, I smiled. The one you were planning to dissolve. Ben lunged for the paper, but Kaya pulled it back. Security is on their way up, Ben, along with some people from the DA's office. You're making a mistake, he growled. Both of you. No, Kaya's voice strengthened. The mistake was letting you turn Dad's legacy into this. You're fired, Ben. Effective immediately. The security team arrived, accompanied by 2 serious-looking individuals with badges. As they led Ben away, his threats echoed down the hallway. Once he was gone, Kaya collapsed into a chair. I feel sick. You did the right thing, I said softly. Did I? The stock is plummeting. The board is in chaos. Everyone's calling for investigations. She looked up at me, eyes wet. What do we do now? We? I raised an eyebrow. I know I don't deserve your help. I've been horrible, wrapped up in myself, blind to everything that mattered to Dad. She pulled out a familiar envelope. But I found this in his study last night. Inside was another silver key pin and a note. For my daughter, who must learn to see beyond the surface. Your sister knows the way. He left us both keys, Kaya whispered. He knew we'd need each other. My phone buzzed. Talia was calling. The women from the foundation are gathering, she said when I answered. They want to help rebuild. I put the phone on speaker. All those women Dad helped over the years, they're offering support, expertise, connections. They want to honor his legacy the right way. A network of women helping women, Kaya mused. Like Dad always wanted. Exactly. I touched my key pin. But it'll take both of us, your business skills, my investigative instincts, and a whole lot of apologies from me. Kaya stood up, squaring her shoulders. Starting with Talia. Will you help me fix this, Sam? Through the office windows, I could see the media circus below, the story still unfolding. But for the first time since Dad's death, I felt like I could see the bigger picture he'd planned all along. That's what sisters are for, I said, offering her my hand. Ready to face the press? She clipped on her key pin, a match to mine. Ready to face everything. As we headed for the elevator, Kaya paused. Sam, thank you for not giving up on the truth. Or on me. Dad never gave up on either, I replied. Now let's go make him proud. The elevator doors opened to chaos, reporters shouting questions, cameras flashing. But standing shoulder to shoulder with my sister, both wearing our silver keys, I knew we were finally asking the right questions. And more importantly, we were ready to find the answers together. I'm selling the mansion, Kaya announced, dropping a stack of papers on my desk. 2 weeks had passed since Ben's arrest, and each day brought new revelations about the company's past. You're what? I looked up from the latest batch of emails from women coming forward with their stories. It's too much. She sank into the chair across from me. The marble fountains, the 12 bedrooms, the tennis court. Dad never wanted any of that. I was just trying to prove something. To whom? Everyone? Myself? She twisted her silver key pin. You know what I found in my wing of the house yesterday? 3 pairs of the same shoes, tags still on. Who needs 3 identical pairs of $1,000 shoes? The old Kaya did, I said gently. The old Kaya was an idiot. She rubbed her temples. The foundation needs funding for the new mentorship program. The mansion could cover it for years. Before I could respond, Talia burst in. You need to see this. She turned on the office TV, where Ben's face filled the screen. Burke Industries has lost its way, he was saying from the steps of the courthouse. These accusations are a coordinated attack by bitter former employees and a vindictive heiress. I've done nothing wrong. Turn it up, Kaya whispered. Furthermore, Ben continued, I have evidence that Solomon Burke himself authorized every decision I made. His daughters are destroying his legacy with their misguided crusade. That, lying, Kaya started to rise, but I grabbed her arm. Wait for it. Right on cue, Mary appeared on screen, approaching the microphones. As Mr. Burke's former attorney, I have been authorized to release certain documents that directly contradict these claims. You knew? Kaya turned to me. Mary called this morning. Dad left a sealed envelope with explicit instructions. If anyone ever tried to blame him for the discrimination, release everything. We watched as Mary methodically dismantled Ben's claims, producing document after document showing Dad's opposition to the discriminatory policies. In fact, Mary concluded, Mr. Burke spent years building a secret support network for the very women his company was failing, a network his daughters are now bringing into the light. The reporters erupted with questions, but Ben had already fled into a waiting car. He's scared, Talia observed. Good. Kaya stood up, straightening her blazer. A simple one now, not the designer labels she used to wear, because we're just getting started. My phone chimed with a message from Skylar. Meeting room, now. Big news. We found her surrounded by printouts, practically vibrating with excitement. Remember those 13-cent transfers? I finally cracked the pattern. She spread out a complex chart. Each amount corresponded to a woman in need. But the 13 cents? It was a code. Every transfer had a matching donation to a separate account. How much? I asked. Millions. Skylar grinned. All perfectly legal, all documented. Your father built a shadow fund right under everyone's noses. But where's the money now? Kaya asked. The door opened and Mary walked in, fresh from her press conference. That's where I come in. She placed a heavy folder on the table. Your father left very specific instructions. The fund was to remain secret until both his daughters wore the silver keys. Only then would its true purpose be revealed. Which is, I prompted, to transform Burke Industries into what it should have been all along, a force for change. The fund doesn't just have money. It has controlling interests in dozens of companies, all led by women your father helped over the years. Kaya sank into a chair. All this time, while I was planning parties, he was planning a revolution, I finished. But he needed both of you, Mary explained. Samantha's determination to uncover truth and Kaya's business acumen. Together, you can rebuild this company into something extraordinary. If you're willing to work together, Talia added. Kaya looked at me, tears in her eyes. I've been so awful to you. You're making up for it now. I squeezed her hand. That's what matters. Ladies, Skylar interrupted, pointing to her laptop. Twitter's exploding. Someone leaked photos of Ben meeting with known corporate raiders. They're planning a hostile takeover. Let them try, Kaya said, standing straighter. We have something they don't. What's that? Talia asked. Kaya touched her silver key, matching mine. Each other, and an army of women who aren't hiding anymore. So, I smiled. What's our next move? First, Kaya pulled out her phone. I'm calling the real estate agent. That mansion is going to serve a better purpose than hosting my parties. And then? She looked around the room at our growing team of allies. Then we show them what happens when women stop competing and start collaborating. Mary nodded approvingly. Your father would be proud. He knew, I realized. He knew we'd need to lose everything to find what really mattered. Including each other, Kaya added softly. Outside, the sun was setting on another day of changes, but for the first time, the chaos felt right. We had a plan, a purpose, and most importantly, we had each other. Ben wanted a war? Fine. He was about to learn what two sisters with their father's fighting spirit could really do. The boardroom crackled with tension as Ben strutted in with his team of corporate raiders. His smirk faltered when he saw the packed room, dozens of women wearing silver key pins, seated alongside the board members. This is a closed meeting, he snapped. Actually, Kaya rose from the head of the table. These women are all shareholders. Thanks to Dad's shadow fund, they own significant portions of Burke Industries. I couldn't help but smile at his confusion. Remember all those women you pushed out? Turns out Dad made sure they'd have a voice when it mattered most. Impossible, Ben sputtered. I've seen the shareholder records. The public ones, sure. Talia stepped forward, distributing documents. But Mr. Burke was quite clever with his shell companies and trust funds. This is ridiculous, one of Ben's raiders objected. We have agreements with major stockholders. Had agreements, Mary corrected, entering with another stack of papers. Those stockholders received some very interesting information about your past dealings this morning. They've reconsidered their positions. Ben's face reddened. You can't what? Kaya interrupted. Protect our father's company? Support the women you victimized? Watch. She nodded to Skylar, who clicked a remote. The boardroom screen lit up with a presentation. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, Kaya began, I present the future of Burke Industries. The next 30 minutes were a masterclass in preparation. Kaya outlined a complete company restructuring, emphasizing ethical leadership and women's empowerment, backed by solid financial projections and support from major investors. The mansion's sale alone funds the first year of our mentorship program, she explained, and our partnership with the Women's Foundation. This is business, not charity, Ben cut in desperately. It's both, I stood up, and we have proof it works. I gestured to the women around the table. Every person here represents a success story. Entrepreneurs, executives, leaders who thrived when given the chance. Dad saw their potential. Now everyone else will too. The vote is simple, Kaya concluded. Continue with the old model, or embrace a future where profit and purpose coexist. Choose wisely. Ben slammed his hand on the table. This company will fail under your leadership. Like it failed when you drove out talented women? Talia asked. When you covered up harassment? When you prioritized greed over growth? I built this company. No, a quiet voice interrupted. All heads turned to the door where an elderly board member stood. Solomon built this company. I've served on this board for 40 years, watched him nurture his vision. And today, for the first time since his death, I see that vision clearly again. One by one, the board members began to nod. Ben's raiders shifted uncomfortably. The vote, Kaya announced, is now open. The next few minutes were tense as votes were cast electronically. When the results appeared on screen, Ben's face went ashen. Unanimous, Mary declared. The restructuring plan is approved. Mr. Nelson's takeover bid is rejected. This isn't over, Ben threatened, gathering his papers. Actually, it is. 2 police officers entered the room. Benjamin Nelson, you're under arrest for securities fraud and witness tampering. As they led him away, his final shouts echoed down the hall. You'll regret this. No, Kaya whispered. I only regret not seeing the truth sooner. The room erupted in applause and congratulations. Women who had once been forced out of the company were now hugging, crying, celebrating their return to power. There's one more thing, I announced, pulling out an envelope. Dad left this with Mary, to be opened when the company was safe. Inside was a single photograph. Dad in his office, much younger, with Kaya and me as children. We were both wearing plastic toy keys as necklaces, playing at being business ladies. He knew, Kaya's voice cracked. Even back then he was preparing us. For this exact moment, Mary added, when his daughters would unlock the company's true potential. Talia approached with champagne. To the new Burke Industries. As glasses clinked and plans were made, I watched Kaya work the room. Gone was the superficial party girl, replaced by a confident leader who knew her worth wasn't measured in designer labels. We did it, Skylar appeared at my side. The story's coming full circle. Not quite, I smiled, touching my key pin. This is just the first chapter. Kaya caught my eye across the room and raised her glass. In that moment, I saw what Dad had always seen. 2 sisters with different strengths but the same heart, ready to carry his legacy forward. To asking the right questions, Kaya called out. And finding the right answers, I finished. The boardroom filled with the sound of clinking glasses and renewed purpose. Outside, the press would be waiting for statements about Ben's arrest and the company's transformation. But for now, we celebrated not just a victory, but a vindication of Dad's faith in us. His $5 inheritance had bought something priceless, the truth that set everything right. Ready? Kaya adjusted my key pin, which had become slightly crooked during the morning's chaos. Born ready. I smoothed down my blazer, smiling at our matching silver keys. Though public speaking was always more your thing. We stood backstage at the company's annual shareholders meeting, but this one was different. The auditorium buzzed with energy, packed with faces both familiar and new, women who'd been part of Dad's secret network, now stepping into the light. Your father would be proud, Mary whispered, joining us with last-minute documents. Both the company's profits and its impact metrics have exceeded all projections. Imagine that, I grinned. Doing good actually makes good business sense. 5 minutes, Skylar called out, tablet in hand. Social media's already trending. Everyone wants to know what the Burke sisters are announcing today. Kaya squeezed my hand. Think Ben will be watching from prison? Probably, along with everyone else who said we'd fail. Talia rushed over with breaking news on her phone. The last lawsuit was just settled. All victims will be compensated, and the company's new harassment prevention program is being hailed as an industry standard. Perfect timing, Kaya nodded. Sam, you're up first. I walked onto the stage to enthusiastic applause, the spotlight warm on my face. Good morning. A year ago, I stood in a lawyer's office, holding a $5 bill and a cryptic note from my father. Today, I'm here to tell you what that $5 really bought. The screen behind me filled with images, women receiving business grants, mentorship meetings, new corporate policies being signed into effect. It bought truth, justice, change. But most importantly, it bought something my father knew we'd need: perspective. The perspective to see that true wealth isn't measured in dollars, but in lives improved. Kaya joined me on stage, which is why we're excited to announce the launch of the Solomon Burke Foundation for Women in Business. Every woman who receives support will get their own silver key pin, becoming part of a growing network of mutual support and empowerment. But that's not all, I continued. We're also announcing a partnership with 12 other major corporations to implement similar programs. The ripple effect starts today. The audience erupted in cheers. In the front row, I spotted the elderly board member who'd supported us that crucial day, tears in his eyes as he applauded. Our father left us a choice, Kaya addressed the crowd. We could compete with each other or complete each other. We chose completion, and that has made all the difference. After the presentation, we gathered in Dad's old office, now a shared space for the Foundation's leadership team. The desk had been restored to its rightful place, its hidden compartments now holding new secrets, new plans for the future. I have something for you both, Mary said, producing a small package. Your father left this with very specific instructions, to be opened only when you'd proven you could work together. Inside was a framed photo of Dad with our mother, taken at the company's founding. They both wore silver keys. The original keys, Mary explained. Your mother was his first partner in the mission to empower women in business. He always said the company had two hearts, profit and purpose, like his two daughters. Look at the back, Skylar pointed. A handwritten note was taped to the frame. To my girls, now you understand why $5 was enough. Some inheritances can't be measured in money. Love, Dad. He knew, Kaya whispered. He knew we'd figure it out. Eventually, I laughed, wiping my eyes. A knock at the door interrupted us. Talia with more good news. The mentorship applications are flooding in. Women from all over the country want to be part of this. Then let's not keep them waiting, Kaya said. We've got work to do. As everyone filed out to celebrate, I lingered by Dad's desk, touching the worn wood that had hidden so many secrets. You coming? Kaya asked, pausing at the door. Just thinking about that $5 bill. I kept it, you know. Of course you did, she smiled. The journalist never throws away evidence. Want to know what I finally did with it? What? I opened the desk drawer and pulled out a small frame. Inside was the $5 bill, mounted alongside Dad's note about asking the right questions. Perfect, Kaya nodded. A reminder of where we started, and who helped us get here. I hung it on the wall beside the photo of our parents. Ready to go change more lives? With my sister by my side? Kaya linked her arm through mine. Always. We walked out together, our silver keys catching the light. Outside, a new generation of women waited to receive their own keys, to unlock their own potential. Dad's legacy lived on, not in the money he left behind, but in the truth he helped us discover, that the greatest inheritance is the power to make a difference. And that was worth far more than $5.
The day I chose Alex was the day my mother told me I was dead to her. I remember standing in our family kitchen, the smell of her famous paella filling the air, when I dropped the bomb that would change everything. Mama, I've made my decision. I'm adopting. The wooden spoon she'd been stirring with clattered against the stovetop. Sophia, you can't be serious. Our blood, our heritage, it means everything. How could you even consider raising someone else's child? I'm Sophia Rodriguez, and that moment marked the beginning of my real life, even though it felt like everything was ending. I was 32, single, and had just been approved as an adoptive parent after a year-long process that tested every ounce of my patience and determination. Blood isn't everything, Mama, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. There are children who need homes, need love. I can provide that. You're choosing to end our bloodline? She turned to face me, her eyes blazing. What about your father's legacy? What about everything we've sacrificed to give you the life you have? The kitchen suddenly felt smaller, more suffocating. Through the archway, I could see my sister Jasmine hovering uncertainly, her expression torn between sympathy and judgment. Jazz, I called out to her. You understand, right? She took a step back, shaking her head. I can't, Sophia. Mama's right. It's not natural. The betrayal stung worse than my mother's reaction. Jasmine had always been my ally, my confidant. But blood ties, it seemed, ran deeper than sisterhood. My father walked in then, his presence filling the doorway. What's all this commotion about? Your daughter, my mother spat, is throwing away everything we've built. She wants to adopt, to bring a stranger's child into our family. I watched his face, hoping to see understanding, but found only disappointment. He didn't say a word. He never did when it mattered, just turned and walked away. 3 months later, I stood in a different room, my heart pounding as a social worker led in a small boy with curious eyes and unruly dark hair. He was 7, quiet but not shy, and when he smiled, something in my chest clicked into place. Hi, he said, extending his hand formally. I'm Alex. I knelt to his level, taking his small hand in mine. I'm Sophia. Would you like to see some pictures I brought? He nodded eagerly, and we spent the next hour looking through photos of my apartment, the park nearby, and the piano I'd inherited from my grandmother. When his fingers traced the piano in the picture, his eyes lit up. Do you play? I asked. No, but I want to learn. They don't have a piano here. He gestured around the children's home. Sometimes I practice on the table, pretending the keys are there. That was the moment I knew. This was my son. Not by blood, but by something deeper, something chosen. The day I brought Alex home, my phone was flooded with messages from family members, each one a variation of disappointment and judgment. I deleted them all without reading, focusing instead on helping Alex arrange his few belongings in his new room. Can I really try the piano? He asked, hovering near the instrument that dominated my small living room. Of course, mi amor. It's your home now, too. He sat at the bench, his feet barely reaching the pedals, and pressed a key. The note rang clear and true through the apartment, then another and another. Within minutes, he was picking out a simple melody by ear. I stood there, watching in amazement as my son, yes, my son, discovered music for the first time. The joy on his face made every harsh word, every family dinner I'd miss, every holiday alone worth it. That night, after tucking Alex in, I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of tea, looking at the empty chairs where my family used to sit. The silence should have been deafening, but instead, it felt like peace, like possibility. My phone buzzed with a text from Poppy, the only family friend who'd stood by me. "How's the first day going with your boy?" I smiled, typing back, "Perfect. He's already claiming the piano as his territory." "Your mother's asking about you," she replied. I set the phone down without responding. Let her ask. Let them all wonder. I had made my choice, and watching Alex's fingers dance across those piano keys today, I knew it was the right one. From the hallway came the soft sound of humming. Alex, not quite asleep, working out a melody in his head. In that moment, I realized something profound. Family isn't about sharing blood. It's about sharing love. And we had that in abundance. 6 years flew by like pages in a music sheet. Alex's talent grew from those first hesitant notes into something that left people speechless. I was watching him practice for his first real recital when my phone buzzed with a notification that would crack open our peaceful world. "Mom, listen to this part," Alex called out, his fingers flying over the keys. At 13, he'd already surpassed what most adults could do with a lifetime of practice. The melody he created wasn't just music, it was pure emotion translated into sound. "Beautiful, mi amor," I said, then glanced at my phone. My heart stopped. There was a link to a local news article. "Teen piano prodigy takes city by storm." Alex's photo smiled up at me from the screen. "Mrs. Harrison wants me to play at the City Arts Festival next month," Alex said, still playing. "She says there'll be talent scouts there." Before I could respond, my phone started ringing. Poppy's name flashed on the screen. "Sophia, have you seen it?" Her voice was urgent. "The article's going viral in the family group chat." My stomach clenched. "How bad is it?" "Your mother's already asking for Alex's schedule. Ezra's talking about untapped potential and family management." She paused. "They're coming, Sophia, all of them." As if on cue, another call beeped through, Jasmine's number. I hadn't seen it in years. "I have to go," I told Poppy. "Keep me posted?" Alex had stopped playing, watching me with concern. "Everything okay, Mom?" "Just fine, honey, but we need to talk about something." I sat beside him on the piano bench. "That article about you? Some people from my past might try to contact us." "You mean your family?" His fingers traced the keys without pressing them. "The ones in the photos you keep in the box under your bed?" I startled. "How did you—" "I found them last year when looking for my birth certificate." He met my eyes. "Why don't we ever see them?" Before I could answer, the doorbell rang. Through the window, I saw a familiar car parked outside. "Stay here," I told Alex, but he followed me anyway. I opened the door to find Jasmine standing there, looking exactly as she had 6 years ago, except for the designer handbag and expensive highlights. "Sophia," she breathed, then looked past me. "And you must be Alex. I'm your Aunt Jasmine." Alex stepped halfway behind me, his hand finding mine. "Hi," he said quietly. "Can we talk?" Jasmine asked, her eyes pleading. "Please, I saw the article, and I've missed you, sis." 6 years, I said flatly. 6 years of silence, and now you want to talk? "I was wrong," she whispered. "We all were, but Alex's talent, it's extraordinary. The family should be part of this." "The family?" I laughed bitterly. "You mean now that there's something in it for them?" "It's not like that." But her eyes shifted away. "Mama's changed. We all have. Ezra thinks he could help manage Alex's career. He's in the music industry now, and—" "Stop." My voice was steel. "Alex isn't a meal ticket. He's my son." "Our nephew," she corrected. "Our blood, even if not by birth." Alex's hand tightened in mine. Mom? His voice was small. Who's Ezra? Nobody you need to worry about, I assured him, then turned back to Jasmine. You can tell Mama and Ezra and everyone else that Alex's career is already perfectly managed by me. The family gathering is next weekend, Jasmine pressed on. Everyone will be there. Just think about coming. For Alex's sake, he deserves to know his family. I felt Alex step forward. I know my family, he said clearly. I have my mom. Pride and love swelled in my chest as Jasmine's face fell. She reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope. Just take this. It's an invitation. Think about it. She placed it on the welcome mat when I didn't take it. We've all made mistakes, Sophia. Maybe it's time to heal them. After she left, I picked up the envelope with trembling fingers. Alex wrapped his arms around my waist. We don't have to go, he said. No, we don't. I stroked his hair, thinking hard. But maybe we should. He pulled back, surprised. Really? A plan was forming in my mind. 6 years of hurt, of judgment, of self-righteous abandonment, all suddenly crystallizing into purpose. Really, I said, sometimes, mi amor, people need to face the consequences of their choices, even family. Like a lesson? He grinned, understanding dawning in his eyes. Exactly like a lesson. I tucked the invitation into my pocket. Now, how about you play that new piece again? We want it to be perfect for the family gathering, don't we? Alex returned to the piano, but this time his music had an edge to it, something sharp, and knowing that matched the glint in my eye. The time for reconciliation had passed. Now it was time for reckoning. The week before the family gathering, memories ambushed me at every turn. I was sorting through Alex's sheet music when my phone lit up with an unfamiliar number. Sophia? The voice was older, hesitant. It's your father. The papers scattered across the floor. 6 years of silence. And now this. What do you want? My voice came out sharper than intended. I saw you accepted the invitation. He cleared his throat. I wanted to warn you about your mother's plans. I sat down hard on the couch. Warn me? She's invited the Camerons. Their daughter runs that prestigious music academy downtown. He paused. And Ezra's brought in some industry contacts. They're trying to take control of Alex's future, I said flatly. It wasn't a question. Your mother, she sees it as correcting a mistake, making things right. He sighed. She thinks if she can guide Alex's career, it'll make up for everything. Make up for disowning me, for missing 6 years of his life? I laughed bitterly. That's rich. Sophia. No, Papa. You don't get to play concerned father now. Where were you when I needed you? When Alex asked why he didn't have a grandfather at his school events? The silence stretched between us like an old wound. I was wrong, he finally said. We all were. But your mother still controls you, I finished. Some things never change. A knock at my door interrupted us. Through the peephole, I saw Poppy standing there, looking worried. I have to go, I told my father. Thanks for the warning. I'll put it to good use. I let Poppy in, her arms full of grocery bags. Stress baking, she explained, heading straight for my kitchen. I brought supplies. It's starting already, I said, following her. The manipulation, the schemes. I know. She began unpacking flour and sugar. Jasmine called me. They're planning some big showcase of Alex's talent at the gathering. Already invited half the music industry in the city. My hands clenched around a mixing bowl. Without asking me, without asking Alex. What are you going to do? Before I could answer, Alex burst through the front door, his face flushed with excitement. Mom, Mrs. Harrison gave me a new piece to learn. She says it's perfect for... He stopped, seeing our expressions. What's wrong? Poppy busied herself with measuring ingredients while I sat Alex down at the kitchen counter. Remember how I told you about your grandparents? About why we don't see them? He nodded slowly. Because they were mad you adopted me instead of having your own kid. Right. Well, they're planning something for the gathering, something big involving your music. His face brightened momentarily, then fell. Without asking us? Exactly. I squeezed his hand. They want to control your future, mi amor, to use your talent for their own purposes. Like what happened to David? He asked quietly. My heart clenched. David had been Alex's friend from music school, a violin prodigy whose parents had pushed him so hard he'd eventually quit music altogether. Yes, like David, but we're not going to let that happen. Poppy looked up from her baking. You have a plan? A small smile played at my lips. They want a show? We'll give them one they'll never forget. What kind of show? Alex asked, his eyes sparking with interest. I pulled out my phone, showing them the text from my father. They've invited all these important people, thinking they can take control of your future, but they forgot something important. What's that? You're not just talented, mi amor. You're your own person, and you have a voice, in your music and otherwise. Understanding dawned on his face. You want me to play something different? Something they won't expect? I want you to play exactly what you want to play, and when the moment's right, I shared a look with Poppy, who was grinning now. They won't know what hit them, she finished. Alex jumped up from his seat. Can I practice now? I have some ideas. As he rushed to the piano, Poppy handed me a spoon covered in cookie dough. You know they'll never forgive you for this. They never forgave me for adopting him in the first place. I licked the spoon, tasting sweetness and determination. At least this time they'll earn their grudge. Through the kitchen doorway, I watched Alex at the piano, his fingers dancing across the keys with purpose. The melody he played wasn't the soft, crowd-pleasing classical pieces my mother would expect. It was something else entirely, something with fire and truth in every note. That's beautiful, honey, I called out. What's it called? He looked over his shoulder, a mischievous glint in his eye. I'm thinking of calling it Blood Isn't Everything. Poppy nearly dropped her mixing bowl laughing, and in that moment, watching my son transform our pain into art, I knew we were ready for whatever the gathering would bring. The family estate loomed before us, its manicured lawns and pristine fountains exactly as I remembered. Alex whistled low beside me as we pulled up in my modest sedan, surrounded by luxury vehicles. You grew up here? He asked, adjusting his tie. Not exactly the two-bedroom apartment you're used to, huh? Poppy's car pulled in behind us. Ready for this? She called out, joining us on the circular driveway. Before I could answer, the front door swung open. My mother stood there, elegant as ever in her designer dress, her arms outstretched. Sophia! Alex! Her voice carried across the lawn like wind chimes. Come in, come in. Everyone's waiting. Alex gripped my hand as we walked up the steps. My mother moved to hug him, but he stepped back slightly. Nice to meet you, he said politely, every inch the well-mannered boy I'd raised. I'm Alex. Her smile faltered for just a moment. Of course you are, dear. I'm your grandmother Shanice. She turned to me, arms still open. Sophia, mihia. Let's not pretend, Mama, I said quietly. Where's everyone else? She dropped her arms, her mask slipping slightly. In the conservatory. We've had the piano tuned specially. Of course they had. The conservatory was packed with faces I hadn't seen in years, plus plenty I didn't recognize. Ezra stood near the piano, deep in conversation with a man in an expensive suit. Jasmine hovered nearby with her husband. My father sat alone in a corner, looking uncomfortable. Alex, Ezra broke away immediately, striding over. The man of the hour. I'm your Uncle Ezra. I've arranged some amazing opportunities for you today. He has a performance scheduled next month, I cut in, at the City Arts Festival. Ezra waved his hand dismissively. Small potatoes. I'm talking about real opportunities. Record deals, prestigious academies. He gestured to the suit-wearing man. This is Marcus from Capitol Records. Alex's grip on my hand tightened. I like my current schedule, he said firmly, and my current teacher. But surely, Ezra started, but was interrupted by my mother clinking a glass. Everyone, please welcome our talented nephew, Alex. He'll be performing for us shortly. She beamed at the crowd. We're so blessed to finally have him join our family properly. Finally? Alex muttered under his breath. Where were they for the past 6 years? Exactly, I whispered back. Ezra was already ushering Alex toward the piano. I've selected some pieces that will really showcase your classical training. Nothing too modern. We want to impress the right people. Actually, Alex said, his voice carrying clearly across the room, I've prepared my own piece. A murmur went through the crowd. My mother's smile became fixed. But dear, we've already printed programs, she said. Perhaps next time you can... It's an original composition, Alex continued, sitting at the piano. I wrote it especially for today. I caught Poppy's eye across the room. She gave me a subtle thumbs up. An original piece? Marcus from Capitol Records leaned forward, interested. That's impressive for your age. My mother shot me a look that could have frozen fire. Sophia, perhaps you should guide him towards something more traditional? Alex makes his own choices about his music, I said loudly. That's how it's always been. But we know what's best for his future, Ezra interjected. The family has connections. The family? I laughed. You mean the same family that hasn't sent him a single birthday card in 6 years? That family? A heavy silence fell over the room. My father shifted in his corner chair. Perhaps, he said quietly, his first words of the day, we should let the boy play what he wants. My mother's head whipped around. Owen! But Alex had already started playing. The melody began softly, almost traditionally, before transforming into something entirely different, raw, emotional, with hints of jazz and modern influences woven through classical foundations. It was the story of our life together, of rejection and resilience, of choosing love over blood. I watched my mother's face as she recognized the underlying message, saw Ezra's frown as he realized his carefully laid plans were unraveling, noticed Jasmine's tears as the music spoke truths we'd left unspoken for years. Marcus was nodding appreciatively, tapping his foot to the complex rhythms. Other industry people in the crowd were whispering excitedly among themselves. What did you say this piece was called? Marcus asked when Alex finished. Alex stood from the piano, straight and proud. Blood isn't everything, he announced clearly. I wrote it for my mom, the only family I needed. The silence that followed was deafening. My mother's perfect gathering was derailing spectacularly, and we weren't even at the main event yet. Well, Poppy said brightly into the tension, who's ready for dinner? The dining room crackled with tension as servants placed elaborate dishes before us. Alex sat between me and Poppy, while my mother held court at the head of the table, her smile growing more strained by the minute. That was quite a unique performance, she said, cutting into her meat with precise movements, though perhaps not quite what our guests expected. Marcus from Capitol Records leaned forward. Actually, I found it fascinating. The blend of classical structure with modern elements shows remarkable sophistication for someone so young. Yes, well, Ezra cut in smoothly, With proper guidance, we could channel that raw talent into something more marketable. I've already spoken with several prestigious academies. Without consulting me, I interrupted, setting down my fork, his legal guardian. Sophia, my mother's voice carried that familiar warning tone. We're simply trying to help. You can't possibly understand the complexities of the music industry. Like you didn't understand my decision to adopt? Silverware clinked against china as conversations around the table hushed. I have some contracts drawn up, Ezra pressed on, pulling papers from his jacket. Simple management agreements, nothing binding, just... Actually, Alex spoke up, his voice clear and steady. I already have management, my mom. Jasmine, sitting across from us, winced. Sweetie, your mom's amazing, but this industry requires connections, experience. Experience? I laughed. Like abandoning family? You're all experts at that. Now, Sophia, my mother's voice sharpened. That's hardly fair. We're trying to make amends. Are you? I pulled out my phone, scrolling through messages. Is that why you've been calling every music school in the city, claiming to be Alex's grandmother and legal guardian? Gasps echoed around the table. My mother's face paled. Or why Ezra's been approaching venues, promising Alex's performances without our knowledge, I continued, laying my phone on the table. I have the emails. You've been monitoring us? Ezra sputtered. No, they've been warning me. Turns out, people in the music industry don't appreciate being manipulated. They've been forwarding me everything. Marcus raised an eyebrow, looking at Ezra with new interest. We were trying to help, my mother insisted, to give him opportunities. Like the opportunities you gave me? I stood up, my chair scraping back. The choice between family and doing what I knew was right? Mom, Alex touched my arm, then turned to address the table. I love music, but I love it because my mom let me find it on my own. She never pushed, never demanded, never tried to control it. But your talent, Ezra started, is mine, Alex finished firmly, not yours to manage or sell or control. My father cleared his throat. The boy's right. Owen, please, my mother hissed, but he continued. We lost 6 years, he said, looking directly at me for the first time. 6 years of birthdays, holidays, performances. We lost them because we couldn't accept Sophia's choice, and now we're trying to steal 6 years of decisions from them both. Silence fell over the table. Jasmine dabbed at her eyes with a napkin. I have a proposition, Marcus said suddenly, pulling out his business card. Not for the family, but for Alex and Sophia directly. Your composition today showed incredible promise, and your mother's clearly been managing your career beautifully so far. I'd love to discuss future possibilities with both of you. He handed the card to me, not Ezra, whose face had turned an interesting shade of purple. This is outrageous. My mother stood up, her chair toppling backward. We arranged this gathering. We brought these opportunities. No, Mama, I cut her off. You arranged an ambush. You brought people here thinking you could manipulate and control us, just like always. But Alex isn't a pawn in your game of perfect family appearances. He's my son. Our grandson, she shouted, mask finally cracking completely. Really? Alex stood up too, his voice steady. Then what's my favorite color? What grade am I in? What's my best friend's name? My mom knows all that. Where were you? The questions hung in the air like suspended notes. I think, Poppy said, standing and placing a hand on Alex's shoulder. It's time for us to go. But dessert hasn't been served, my mother protested weakly. I think we've had our fill, I replied, taking Alex's hand. Come on, mi amor. We have a practice session scheduled for tomorrow morning. As we walked toward the door, my father called out, Sophia? I turned. I'm sorry, he said simply, for everything. I nodded once, then led Alex out into the evening air, leaving behind the heavy silence of shattered pretenses and exposed truths. The night wasn't over yet. There was still one more act to come in this family drama, and I had saved the best for last. We hadn't made it halfway down the driveway when the front door burst open behind us. "You can't just leave," Ezra shouted, jogging to catch up. "Do you have any idea what you're throwing away?" I turned slowly, feeling the weight of the USB drive in my pocket. "No, Ezra. Do you have any idea what you're about to lose?" He stopped short, confusion crossing his face. Behind him, others spilled out onto the front steps. My mother, Jasmine, several industry contacts. Perfect. "What are you talking about?" Ezra demanded. I pulled out the drive. "Funny thing about being a protective mother. You learn to do your research, to keep records." I tossed it to Marcus, who caught it reflexively. "You might find that interesting." "What is this?" Marcus asked, turning the drive over in his hands. Evidence of every shady deal Ezra's made in the music industry over the past 3 years. Every young talent he's exploited, every contract he's manipulated, every penny he's skimmed. The color drained from Ezra's face. "You're bluffing. Remember Tommy Martinez, the teenage guitarist you managed last year? His parents were very helpful when I reached out. So were the parents of those twin pianists from last summer." "You had no right." Ezra started forward, but my father's hand caught his shoulder. "Enough," my father said firmly. "Haven't you done enough damage?" My mother rushed down the steps. "Sophia, please. Whatever Ezra's done, he's still family. We can handle this privately." "Like you handled my adoption privately?" I shot back. "By disowning me? By turning the entire family against me?" "That was different." "No, it wasn't." Alex's voice rang out clear and strong. "It was about control, just like this is." Jasmine stepped forward, tears in her eyes. "We were wrong, Sophia, about everything. Please don't do this." "Do what? Expose the truth?" I laughed. "That's rich coming from you, Jazz. Remember when you promised to stand by me, to be there for Alex?" "I was scared," she whispered, "scared of being cut off like you were. And now you're scared of the consequences. Funny how that works." Marcus was scrolling through his phone, face growing darker by the minute. "These allegations, if they're true?" "They are," I confirmed. "Every single one, with documentation to prove it." "You'll destroy his career," my mother pleaded, "like you tried to control Alex's." Poppy spoke up from beside me. "Karma's not fun, is it, Shanice?" Ezra lunged forward suddenly, reaching for the drive, but Marcus stepped back smoothly. "I think," Marcus said coldly, "I'll be taking this to our legal department and canceling any pending contracts with your agency, Ezra." "You can't," Ezra sputtered. "I can and I will. The industry has no place for people who exploit young talent." He turned to Alex and me. "My offer to work with you both still stands. Directly. No intermediaries." My mother sank onto the steps, her perfect gathering completely derailed. "Why are you doing this to us?" "I'm not doing anything to you," I replied calmly. "I'm protecting my son, something you never understood." "By destroying your cousin's career?" "No," Alex stepped forward, "by showing that actions have consequences. Isn't that what family's supposed to teach?" Pride swelled in my chest as my son stood tall, speaking truth to the people who'd rejected him before they'd even known him. "We could have been great together," Ezra said bitterly. "Could have made millions." "We already are great," Alex replied. "Without you." My father walked down the steps slowly, stopping in front of us. "You've grown into a remarkable woman, Sophia. And you," he turned to Alex, "are an extraordinary young man. I hope I hope someday you'll both give me a chance to know you properly. That depends, I said quietly. Are you finally ready to make your own choices, Papa? Or will you let Mama make them for you? He looked back at my mother, then at Ezra, then at the life he'd let others control for so long. Something shifted in his eyes. I think, he said slowly, it's time I learned from my daughter's example. My mother's gasp echoed across the driveway. Come on, I said softly, taking Alex's hand. Let's go home. As we walked to the car, the sound of arguing erupted behind us. Ezra's desperate explanations, my mother's accusations, Jasmine's sobs. But none of it touched us anymore. We had our own music to make. Mom? Alex asked as we pulled away. Are we really never coming back? I watched the mansion shrink in the rearview mirror. Never say never, mi amor. But if we do, it'll be on our terms, not theirs. He smiled, already humming a new melody. I think I have an idea for my next composition. Yeah? What's this one called? Consequences. The aftermath hit faster than we expected. By Monday morning, my phone was buzzing with notifications about Ezra's sudden departure from the music industry. Local news outlets picked up the story, and by Tuesday, it was everywhere. Mom, Alex called from the living room. We're trending. I walked in to find him scrolling through his phone. What do you mean, trending? Look. He held up the screen, showing a viral video of his performance at the gathering. Someone had recorded it and posted it online with the caption, Teen Pianist Destroys Family Gathering with Epic Truth Bomb. 3 million views, Poppy whistled, looking over his shoulder. And the comments are wild. People love you too. My phone rang, Marcus from Capitol Records. Sophia, we need to talk about Alex's schedule. After that video went viral, every major venue in the city wants to book him. On our terms? I asked firmly. Absolutely. You're his manager, full stop. We just want to help amplify what you're already doing brilliantly. As I discussed details with Marcus, the doorbell rang. Alex answered it, then called out, Mom, it's Grandpa. My father stood in the doorway, looking smaller somehow, without my mother's shadow looming over him. Can I come in? He asked quietly. I nodded, ending the call. He sat awkwardly on our couch, taking in the modest apartment with its music awards on the walls and family photos he wasn't in. Your mother's furious, he said finally. She's banned anyone from mentioning either of you at home. So why are you here? I asked. Because I'm done letting her control everything. He pulled out an envelope. I've moved out, got my own place, and he slid the envelope across the coffee table. I've transferred half my assets into a trust for Alex's education. No strings attached. Papa, let me finish. He held up a hand. I can't undo the past 6 years, but I can try to be better going forward, if you'll let me. Alex sat down next to him. Do you really want to know me, or just my music? My father turned to him, eyes glistening. I want to know everything. Your favorite color, your best friend's name, what grade you're in, everything I should have known all along. Blue, Alex said. My best friend is Marcus, not the record guy, different Marcus, and I'm in 8th grade. A tear rolled down my father's cheek. Thank you. The doorbell rang again. This time it was Jasmine. Mascara streaked down her face. I left Thomas, she blurted out. I couldn't. After seeing you stand up to everyone, I realized I've been living someone else's life too. Jazz. No, let me finish. I've been so wrong, Sophia, about everything. Watching you raise Alex, seeing how strong you are. I want to be brave like that. Alex moved to the piano, his fingers finding keys as emotions filled the room. The melody he played was gentle, healing, different from the fierce piece at the gathering. What's this one called? Jasmine asked softly. Second chances, Alex replied, not stopping. I'm still working on it. My father pulled out his phone, showing us the screen. Dozens of missed calls from my mother. She's trying to damage control everything, he said, calling in favors to suppress the video, threatening legal action against anyone who shares it. Let her, I said. The truth has a way of coming out. Ezra's left the country, Jasmine added. Apparently, there's an investigation into his business practices now. The melody from the piano swelled, filling our small living room with something that felt like hope. I can't promise everything will be perfect, my father said, but I'd like to try being a real grandfather and a real father. And I want to be a real sister, Jasmine added. If you'll have me. I looked at Alex, still playing. He nodded slightly, his music saying what words couldn't. Okay, I said finally, but we do this slowly, and everything stays transparent. No schemes, no manipulation, no control. Agreed, they said in unison. And Mom? Jasmine asked hesitantly. That's her choice to make, I replied, just like this was ours. Alex finished his piece with a flourish that somehow managed to sound both final and beginning. Perfect timing, Poppy announced from the kitchen. I just made coffee, and Alex, honey, your new video just hit 4 million views. As we gathered around the kitchen table, my father awkwardly holding his coffee cup, Jasmine wiping away tears, Alex already composing his next piece in his head, I realized something profound. Sometimes the family you choose and the family you're born with can merge into something new, something better, but only if everyone chooses it freely. So, Papa, I said, passing him the sugar, want to hear about the first time Alex played piano? His smile was answer enough. The City Arts Festival buzzed with energy as Alex prepared backstage. His new piece, Second Chances, had evolved into something extraordinary, a complex dialogue between past and present, pain and healing. 5 minutes, the stage manager called. I adjusted Alex's tie, fighting back tears. Ready, mi amor? More than ready. He grinned, peeking through the curtain at the packed auditorium. Is everyone here? Front row. I squeezed his shoulder, even the ones we didn't expect. My mother sat stiffly between my father and Jasmine, her face unreadable. She'd arrived unannounced, slipping in just before the doors closed, our first sight of her since the gathering 3 months ago. Ladies and gentlemen, the announcer's voice boomed. Please welcome to the stage Alex Rodriguez. The audience erupted in applause as Alex walked out, confidence in every step. He'd grown taller in these past months, stronger, not just in height, but in spirit. His fingers touched the keys, and magic filled the hall. The melody started softly, like a question, before building into something that made people lean forward in their seats. I watched my mother's face as the music washed over her, saw the moment her rigid posture began to crack. Halfway through the piece, Alex seamlessly transitioned into something new, notes I'd never heard him practice. The melody carried echoes of an old lullaby, one my mother used to sing to me and Jasmine. Her hand flew to her mouth. When the final note faded, the silence lasted precisely 1 heartbeat before the audience exploded. Alex stood, bowing, then gestured to the front row. This piece, he spoke into the microphone, is for my family, all of them, the ones who've been there from the start and the ones who are learning to be there now. My mother's shoulders shook. My father wrapped an arm around her as Alex continued. My mom taught me that family isn't about blood or obligation. It's about choice. Every day we choose who we want to be, who we want to love, who we want to forgive. He looked directly at my mother. Some choices take longer than others. That's okay. The music waits. The audience's applause was deafening as Alex left the stage. Backstage, he flew into my arms. That ending, I whispered. When did you? Last night, he admitted, after Grandma called. I pulled back, startled. She called you? Asked if she could come today. Said she's been listening to my videos online, every single one, over and over. He smiled. Said she finally heard what she'd been missing. A throat cleared behind us. My mother stood there, looking smaller somehow, more human. That lullaby, she said softly. You remembered. Mom taught me, Alex replied. She taught me everything important. My mother nodded, tears streaming freely now. Sophia, she turned to me. I don't deserve. No, I cut her off. You don't. But that's not how love works, is it? Can I? She hesitated. Can I try again? Not to control, not to fix, just to be here? Alex looked at me, and I saw in his eyes the same strength that had led me to adopt him all those years ago. The strength to choose love, even when it's hard. Coffee, I said finally. We can start with coffee, once a week, just talking. I'd like that, she whispered. Poppy appeared with a bouquet of flowers. Sorry to interrupt, but there's a whole line of record executives out there waiting to meet Alex. And Marcus says the video of today's performance is already going viral. Let them wait, Alex said, surprising us all. Family comes first. My mother let out a sound between a laugh and a sob. Speaking of family, my father joined us, holding up his phone. Ezra just pleaded guilty, all of it. He's facing serious time. Good, I said firmly. Actions have consequences. Yes, my mother agreed quietly. They do, all actions. She looked at me meaningfully, including mine. Jasmine appeared with coffee cups for everyone. I thought we could all use this. It's going to be a long night of celebrations. As we stood there backstage, sipping coffee and watching Alex show my mother videos of his previous performances on his phone, I realized something. Revenge hadn't brought us here. Truth had. The truth in Alex's music, in our choices, in the consequences we faced and dealt out. Mom? Alex called out. Can we play that duet we've been practicing? For everyone? I set down my coffee cup and joined him at the piano. As our fingers found their places on the keys, I saw my mother lean forward, really listening for the first time. Sometimes the sweetest victory isn't in making others hurt, but in showing them what they missed and giving them a chance to hear it now. We began to play.
The crystal wine glass shattered against the wall behind me, sending shards of glass tinkling across the marble floor of the dining room. I didn't flinch. After 3 years of marriage into the Marshall family, I'd grown accustomed to Eugene's temper tantrums. My name is Fatima, and I'm what my father-in-law calls just a nurse. The way he spits those words out, you'd think I'd admitted to being a serial killer rather than someone who saves lives for a living. How dare you question my judgment? Eugene's face had turned an alarming shade of red as he glared at my husband, Aston. 25 years as chief of surgery, and you think you know better than me about the value of hospital staff? I dabbed my napkin against my lips, fighting to maintain my composure. The weekly family dinner had devolved into chaos because I'd mentioned helping save a patient that morning. Apparently, that was above my station. Dad, times have changed, Aston said, his hand finding mine under the table. Nurses are the backbone of healthcare. Fatima's skills. Skills? Eugene barked out a laugh. Changing bedpans and taking temperatures? Please, son. Your mother and I didn't put you through medical school so you could marry someone who does a servant's job. Patricia, my mother-in-law, stared intently at her plate, while Savannah, my sister-in-law, shifted uncomfortably in her chair. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a scalpel. That servant saved a man's life today when his heart stopped, I said quietly, meeting Eugene's eyes. While the doctor was still flipping through his charts, I noticed the signs and started CPR. Eugene's lip curled. Know your place, girl. You assist. You don't save. That's enough! Aston's fist came down hard on the mahogany table, making the silverware jump. I won't sit here and listen to you disrespect my wife anymore. Your wife? Eugene sneered. The girl who couldn't even get into medical school? Who settled for— I didn't settle for anything, I interrupted, my voice steady despite my racing heart. I chose nursing because I wanted to work directly with patients, to be there for them in their darkest moments. Something you seem to have forgotten about healthcare, Eugene. The room fell silent. Even Patricia looked up from her plate, eyes wide. Nobody interrupted Eugene Marshall. How dare you lecture me about healthcare? He sputtered. I built this family's legacy. The Marshall name means something in medical circles, and you— And I what? I stood up slowly, placing my napkin beside my half-eaten dinner. Tarnish it by actually caring about patients? By doing the work you consider beneath you? Savannah let out a small gasp. Aston squeezed my hand, a silent show of support. Get out, Eugene growled. Get out of my house. Gladly, I turned to Aston. I'll wait in the car. As I walked toward the door, I heard chairs scraping against the floor and Aston's voice rising in argument with his father. I paused in the doorway, looking back at Eugene. You know what the difference is between us, Eugene? When my patients thank me, it's not because of my last name. It's because I was there, holding their hand when they were scared, cleaning them up when they couldn't do it themselves, fighting for them when they couldn't fight for themselves. That's not being a servant. That's being a nurse. Later that night, as Aston and I lay in bed, he pulled me close. I'm sorry about my father, he whispered into my hair. Don't be, I replied, tracing patterns on his chest. He's the one who should be sorry. Still, the things he said— He'll understand someday, I said, thinking about the countless times I'd seen arrogant doctors humbled by circumstance. Karma has a way of teaching people the value of those they look down on. That sounds ominous, Aston chuckled. I smiled in the darkness. Not ominous, just true. Everyone needs a nurse eventually, Aston. Even the great Eugene Marshall. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text from Ivy, my best friend and fellow nurse. Rough night at the family dinner? The usual, I typed back. Eugene being Eugene, but I stood my ground this time. Good girl, he'll learn one day. Nobody looks down on nurses when they're flat on their back in a hospital bed. I put my phone away thinking about Ivy's words. She was right, of course. But as I drifted off to sleep, I couldn't shake the feeling that Eugene's lesson might come sooner rather than later. Call it nurse's intuition, but something told me change was coming to the Marshall family, whether they were ready for it or not. Code Blue, room 415. Code Blue, room 415. The overhead announcement sent me sprinting down the hospital corridor, my shoes squeaking against the freshly waxed floor. I burst into the room to find an elderly patient in cardiac arrest, his monitor screaming its warning. Starting compressions, I called out, immediately positioning myself over his chest. 1, 2, 3, 4. The rhythm was muscle memory after years of practice. Ivy rushed in behind me with the crash cart. BP's dropping fast, she reported, already preparing the defibrillator. Where's the doctor? I asked between compressions. Dr. Williams is in surgery. They're paging someone else. I nodded, continuing CPR. The patient's face was turning blue. Come on, sir, I muttered. Stay with us. The door burst open again, and to my surprise, Leandro, our hospital administrator, rushed in. He'd been a nurse before moving into administration, and in emergencies, he never hesitated to jump in. What's his status? Leandro asked, pulling on gloves. No pulse, BP critically low, Ivy reported. Defibrillator ready. Clear, I called out, moving back as Leandro administered the shock. The patient's body jerked, but the monitor continued its ominous tone. Again, I resumed compressions while Ivy administered epinephrine. 3 more shocks and 15 minutes of CPR later, the steady beep of a normal heart rhythm filled the room. I slumped back, exhausted but relieved. Nice work, Fatima, Leandro said, patting my shoulder. You kept him alive until we could get his heart started again. I was wiping sweat from my forehead when Dr. Thompson finally arrived, looking flustered. What happened here? Patient went into cardiac arrest, I reported professionally. We performed CPR and administered 4 shocks. He's stable now. The doctor barely acknowledged me, turning instead to check the monitors himself. Typical. Later in the break room, Ivy handed me a coffee. You were amazing in there. Did you see how fast you responded? Just doing my job, I said, but I couldn't help smiling. Unlike some people who couldn't be bothered to show up until after the crisis was over. Speaking of people who don't appreciate nurses, Ivy stirred her coffee. How are things with the father-in-law from hell? I groaned. Eugene? Still his charming self. You should have seen him at dinner last night, throwing wine glasses like a toddler having a tantrum. Girl, I don't know how you handle it. If my father-in-law treated me like that. Fatima, Leandro appeared in the doorway. The patient from 415 is asking for you. His family's there too. In the patient's room, I found him awake and alert, surrounded by tearful relatives. His face lit up when he saw me. There she is, he exclaimed weakly. My guardian angel. This is the nurse who saved my life. His daughter hugged me tightly. Thank you so much. Dad would have died if you hadn't acted so quickly. I was just doing my job, I said, checking his vitals. How are you feeling, Mr. Roberts? Like I got kicked in the chest by a horse, he chuckled. But I'm alive, thanks to you. As I finished my checks, my phone buzzed. A text from Savannah. Emergency. Dad collapsed at the clinic. They're bringing him to your hospital. My blood ran cold. I showed the message to Ivy, who'd just walked in. Oh shit, she whispered. What are you going to do? Before I could answer, another text came through from Aston. Dad's being admitted to your floor. I know it's awkward, but you're the best nurse there. Please help him. Ivy squeezed my arm. Karma works fast, doesn't it? This isn't funny, I hissed, but my hands were shaking. What if something goes wrong? What if— Stop, Ivy said firmly. You're a professional. You just saved a man's life while doctors were nowhere to be found. Eugene needs a nurse right now, not a doctor. He needs you. Leandro appeared again, looking concerned. Fatima, we have a VIP patient coming in, Dr. Eugene Marshall. Given your connection, I'll take him, I said, straightening my scrubs. I'm the charge nurse on this floor, and I'm not going to let personal issues interfere with patient care. Leandro nodded approvingly. That's why you're one of our best. The paramedics are 5 minutes out. As I walked to the emergency entrance, my heart was racing. After years of Eugene's contempt, fate had handed me exactly what I'd wished for, a chance to show him exactly what a nurse could do. But as I watched the ambulance pull up, lights flashing, I realized this wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about proving something to myself. Time to show you what a servant can do, Eugene, I whispered, pushing through the emergency room doors. The emergency room doors burst open as the paramedics wheeled Eugene in. His face was ashen, a stark contrast to the angry red I'd seen at dinner just days ago. Patricia hurried alongside the gurney, clutching her husband's hand. BP 160-100. Possible stroke symptoms, the paramedic reported. Patient experienced sudden weakness on the left side and slurred speech approximately 40 minutes ago. I switched into professional mode instantly. Get him to CT stat. I'll alert neurology. Eugene's eyes found mine, widening with recognition. For the first time since I'd known him, I saw fear in them. No, he slurred, trying to push my hands away as I checked his pupils. Not her. Eugene, stop it, Patricia snapped, surprising everyone. Let her help you. Aston rushed in, still wearing his surgical scrubs. Dad, what happened? He looked at me. Fatima, what's his status? Possible stroke. We're taking him for imaging now. I turned to the other nurse. Start the stroke protocol. I want those results ASAP. As we moved Eugene to CT, he kept trying to speak, his words coming out garbled. I leaned closer. Don't want servant. Well, this servant is trying to save your life, I said calmly, adjusting his IV. So lie still and let me do my job. The CT results confirmed our fears. Eugene was having an ischemic stroke. The next hours were a blur of activity as we administered TPA and monitored him closely. I stayed by his side, checking his vitals every 15 minutes, watching for any changes. You're doing great, Ivy whispered during a brief handoff. How are you holding up? I'm fine, I replied, updating Eugene's chart. He's just another patient who needs help. Bullshit, she said. but you're handling it like a boss. Around midnight, Leandro stopped by to check on the situation. Eugene had stabilized, but he was still weak on his left side. Dr. Thompson wants to transfer him to a private room, Leandro said. Any preference on who takes over his care? I'll keep him, I said firmly. I'm already familiar with his case. Leandro raised an eyebrow. Are you sure, given the personal situation? I'm sure. I met his gaze. Unless you think I can't remain professional? No, I trust your judgment. He paused. Just be careful. These family situations can get complicated. As if on cue, Patricia approached us, looking exhausted. Fatima, could I speak with you? We stepped into the family room, where she surprised me by pulling me into a tight hug. Thank you, she whispered. The doctors said if he hadn't received treatment so quickly. She pulled back, wiping her eyes. I know how he's treated you. No one would blame you if you'd stepped away. That's not who I am, I said simply. No, it's not. She smiled sadly. Maybe that's what he needs to see. A commotion from Eugene's room interrupted us. We rushed back to find him trying to get out of bed, fighting against Aston's restraining hands. Dad, stop. You'll hurt yourself. Want different nurse, Eugene managed to say, glaring at me. I stepped forward, my voice firm. Mr. Marshall, you're having a stroke. Every minute counts. You can request a different nurse once you're stable, but right now I'm what you've got. So please, lie back down before you make things worse. The use of his formal name seemed to shock him. For a moment we stared at each other, the mighty surgeon and the lowly nurse, until finally he slumped back against the pillows. That's better, I said, checking his IV. Now can you squeeze my hand? Good. And follow my finger with your eyes. As I performed the neurological checks, I felt everyone watching. Aston, Patricia, even Savannah, who'd arrived sometime during the chaos. The room was thick with unspoken words and shifting dynamics. Your left side is showing improvement, I reported professionally. But you need rest. Visiting hours are over. Everyone out, except immediate family. I'm staying, Patricia said firmly, settling into the chair beside his bed. As the others filed out, Aston caught my arm. You don't have to do this, he whispered. We can get another nurse. I watched Eugene, now lying quietly with his eyes closed, looking vulnerable in his hospital gown. Yes, I do, I replied. Because right now, he doesn't need a daughter-in-law to resent or a servant to despise. He needs a nurse. And like it or not, that's exactly what I am. Aston kissed my forehead. You're amazing, you know that? Go get some rest, I said, checking Eugene's monitors one more time. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. As I settled in for my night shift, I couldn't help but think about Karma's strange sense of humor. Eugene had spent years looking down on my profession, and now his life literally depended on it. But as I watched him sleep, I realized this wasn't about winning or losing anymore. It was about something much more important, the fundamental truth about what it means to care for another human being, regardless of who they are or how they've treated you. Time for your morning exercises, I announced, entering Eugene's room with a physical therapy assistant. 3 days had passed since his stroke, and though his speech was improving, his left side remained weak. Eugene scowled at me. Where's the doctor? Dr. Thompson will be here for rounds later, I said, helping him sit up. Right now, you need to work on your mobility. Don't want you, he muttered, but his protest lacked its usual venom. Well, that's unfortunate, I replied cheerfully, because I'm going to help you stand whether you like it or not, unless you'd prefer to stay in that bed forever? Patricia, who hadn't left his side for 3 days, stifled a laugh. Eugene, stop being difficult. With careful movements, we got him to his feet. His left leg trembled with the effort, and his face flushed with embarrassment as he clutched the walker. Small steps, I instructed, supporting his weak side, just to the door and back. I know how to walk, he snapped. Clearly, I said dryly as he stumbled. That's why you nearly face-planted just now. Savannah, who'd been quietly watching from the corner, stepped forward. Dad, please, let Fatima help you. He shot her a betrayed look but allowed me to steady him as we slowly made our way across the room. Halfway there, his legs began to shake more violently. I can't, he gasped. Yes, you can, I said firmly. 3 more steps. Count them with me. To everyone's surprise, he did. When we finally reached the door, sweat beaded on his forehead, but there was a glimmer of triumph in his eyes. Good job, I said, helping him turn around. Now back to bed. The return journey was harder. Halfway there, his left leg gave out completely. I caught him before he could fall, my training kicking in automatically. I've got you, I said softly, bearing his weight until he could steady himself. For a moment, our eyes met, and I saw something shift in his expression, a crack in the armor of his prejudice. Later that afternoon, I was checking his vitals when Dr. Thompson arrived with his entourage of residents. "Ah, Eugene," he said jovially. "How's our star patient?" "Ask the nurse," Eugene replied, surprising everyone. "She's been here all morning." Dr. Thompson turned to me, eyebrows raised. I gave my report professionally, detailing Eugene's progress, his morning exercises, and my concerns about his blood pressure readings. "Excellent work," Dr. Thompson said. "You're lucky to have such an attentive nurse, Eugene." Eugene didn't respond, but I caught him watching me thoughtfully as I adjusted his medication. During lunch, Ivy joined me in the break room. "So, how's the dragon doing?" "Better," I said, picking at my salad. "He actually let me help him walk today without threatening to have me fired." "Progress!" Ivy grinned. "Next thing you know, he'll be admitting nurses are actually human beings." "Let's not get crazy," I laughed. A commotion in the hallway interrupted our break. I rushed out to find Eugene trying to reach the bathroom on his own, Patricia hovering anxiously nearby. "He refused to call for help," she explained frantically. "Stubborn man," I muttered, hurrying to his side. "You could have fallen." "Don't need help to pee," he growled, but his grip on the walker was white-knuckled. "Right, because you're doing such a great job on your own," I said, taking his arm. "Come on, let's get you there before you end up back in the ER. As I helped him back to bed afterward, he cleared his throat. "Thank you," he mumbled, so quietly I almost missed it. "I'm sorry, what was that?" I couldn't resist teasing. Did the great Eugene just thank a lowly nurse? He glared at me, but there was less heat in it than before. "Don't push it." That evening, as I was finishing my shift, Savannah stopped me in the hallway. "You know," she said, "I've never seen anyone handle Dad like you do, not even Mom." "I've had practice with difficult patients," I shrugged. "No, it's more than that." She touched my arm. "You could have requested a transfer or treated him coldly, and no one would have blamed you. But instead, you're giving him your best care, even after everything he's said to you." "That's what nurses do," I said simply. "Maybe that's what Dad needs to understand," she mused. "That it's not about status or titles. It's about being there when someone needs you." As if to prove her point, Eugene's voice called out from his room. "Fatima?" I shared a surprised look with Savannah. It was the first time he'd ever used my name. "Coming!" I called back, heading toward his room. Behind me, I heard Savannah on the phone with Aston. "You won't believe what just happened." "Your blood pressure is still higher than we'd like," I said, removing the cuff from Eugene's arm. A week had passed since his stroke, and while his speech had almost returned to normal, his recovery was proving more challenging than expected. "I know my own blood pressure," he grumbled, but without the usual bite. "Been a doctor longer than you've been alive." "And now you're a patient," I reminded him, adjusting his medication drip. "A rather stubborn one." Patricia looked up from her magazine. "She's right, dear. You need to listen to her." Before Eugene could respond, Aston walked in, still in his surgical scrubs. "How's the patient today?" "Your wife won't let me leave this bed," Eugene complained. "Because the last time you tried, you nearly collapsed," I pointed out. "Remember?" Aston grinned. "Listen to her, Dad. Fatima knows what she's doing." Eugene shifted uncomfortably, then winced. I noticed immediately. "Pain in your chest again?" "It's nothing," he muttered. "I'll be the judge of that." I pressed my stethoscope to his chest, listening carefully. "Your heart rhythm's irregular. I'm ordering an ECG." "I don't need—" "Yes, you do," I cut him off. "Unless you'd prefer another stroke? This time maybe on your right side, so you can't move at all?" The room fell silent. Eugene stared at me, and for a moment I worried I'd gone too far. Then, surprisingly, he chuckled. "You've got spirit. I'll give you that." Within minutes, I had the ECG machine ready. As I attached the leads to his chest, I caught him watching me with an unreadable expression. "What?" I asked. "You're good at this," he said quietly. "Better than some doctors I've known." Before I could respond, Ivy burst into the room. "Fatima, we need you in 412. Patient's coding." "Stay put," I ordered Eugene. "I'll be back to check these results." I spent the next 20 minutes helping stabilize the other patient. When I returned to Eugene's room, I found him in an intense discussion with Patricia. "Can't deny it anymore," she was saying. "You've seen how she works." They fell silent when I entered. I checked the ECG results, frowning at what I saw. "I'm calling Dr. Thompson," I announced. "These readings concern me." "What do you see?" Eugene asked, professional curiosity evident in his voice. I pointed to the pattern on the printout. "These ST segment changes suggest possible cardiac ischemia," he finished, looking impressed despite himself. "You caught that quickly." "That's what happens when you pay attention to your patients instead of just their charts," I said pointedly. Later that evening, after Dr. Thompson had adjusted Eugene's medication, I found Savannah waiting at the nurse's station. "Dad's been asking for you," she said. "He's actually been worried you're angry at him." "Me? Angry at him?" I laughed. "That's new." When I entered his room, Eugene was alone for the first time since his admission. Patricia had finally gone home to rest. "You needed something?" I asked, checking his IV. "Sit down for a moment," he said, gesturing to the chair beside his bed. When I hesitated, he added, "Please." I sat, waiting. "I overheard something today," he began, "while you were helping that other patient. The family, they were praising you, saying how you saved their father's life last week. I was just doing my job." "No," he shook his head. "You were doing more than that. You were being what I used to be before I got so caught up in titles and prestige." He looked down at his weakened left hand. "I forgot what it means to really care for patients." "It's never too late to remember," I said softly. "When I had the stroke," he continued, "I was terrified. Not just of dying, but of being helpless. And you didn't gloat or take advantage. You just helped. Even after everything I'd said." "That's what nurses do," I said, standing to adjust his pillows. "We help people regardless of who they are or how they've treated us." "I'm beginning to understand that," he replied. "And I'm beginning to understand why Aston chose you." Before I could respond, his monitors started beeping rapidly. His face had gone pale, and he was clutching his chest. "Eugene?" I grabbed his wrist, checking his pulse. "What's wrong?" "Can't breathe," he gasped. I hit the emergency call button. "I need a crash cart in here now." As the room filled with medical staff, I stayed by Eugene's side, holding his hand as we fought to stabilize him once again. In that moment, all the past insults and conflicts disappeared. He wasn't my difficult father-in-law anymore. He was just a patient who needed my help, and I would help him, because that's what nurses do. That's what I do. "It was a mild heart attack," Dr. Thompson explained to the family gathered in Eugene's room. "Thanks to Fatima's quick response, we caught it early and prevented major damage." Eugene lay propped up in bed, looking smaller somehow. Patricia clutched his hand while Aston and Savannah stood nearby, their faces etched with worry. "She saved my life," Eugene said quietly. "Again." I busied myself checking his vitals, trying to ignore the weight of everyone's stares. The monitors showed his heart rate and blood pressure were finally stable after last night's crisis. "You should have seen her, Mom," Savannah said. "She was so calm, giving orders, keeping everything under control while Dad was—" She trailed off, her voice cracking. "That's enough," I said firmly. "Eugene needs rest, not a fan club." "Always so professional," Eugene managed a weak smile, "even when I was such an ass." "Language, dear," Patricia scolded, but she was smiling too. Leandro appeared in the doorway. "Fatima, could I speak with you for a moment?" In the hallway, he handed me a piece of paper. We found this in Eugene's personal effects when we changed him into a hospital gown last night. It's addressed to you. I unfolded the paper, recognizing Eugene's handwriting despite its shakiness. Fatima. I've been trying to find the right words. Pride makes fools of us all, especially old doctors who think they know everything. I was wrong about you. Wrong about nurses. Wrong about so many things. Fatima? Ivy's voice interrupted my reading. Eugene's asking for you. I tucked the letter into my pocket and hurried back into the room. Eugene was attempting to sit up straighter, grimacing with the effort. Let me help. I moved to adjust his position. You need to take it easy. Need to say something, he insisted, while I still can. Dad, please, Aston started, but Eugene held up his hand. No, son, this needs to be said. He turned to me. I've been a fool, Fatima. A proud, arrogant fool. Eugene, you don't have to. Yes, I do. His voice was stronger now. I looked down on nurses my entire career, thought they were beneath me. But these past 2 weeks, you've shown me what real healthcare is about. The room was dead silent. Even the usual hospital bustle outside seemed to have quieted. You didn't just treat my symptoms, he continued. You treated me, the scared, stubborn old man who needed help but was too proud to admit it. You showed more dignity and professionalism than I ever did, even when I was at my worst. Patricia was crying quietly. Savannah moved to put an arm around her mother's shoulders. I wrote you a letter, Eugene said. Did they give it to you? I patted my pocket. Just got it. Haven't finished reading it yet. Read it later, he said. Right now, I want everyone to hear this. He took a deep breath. I'm sorry, Fatima. For everything. For every dismissive comment, every insult, every time I made you feel less than what you are, an exceptional healthcare professional, and an even more exceptional person. Eugene, I started, my own eyes growing wet. Let me finish, he insisted. Aston, you chose well, better than your old man deserved. And Fatima, he reached for my hand. I'd be honored if you'd continue to be my nurse, and my daughter-in-law. I squeezed his hand, unable to speak for a moment. Aston came up behind me, placing his hands on my shoulders. Well, Ivy said from the doorway where she'd been watching. I never thought I'd see the day. Neither did I admitted, wiping my eyes. But Eugene, this doesn't mean I'm going to stop bossing you around. You're still my patient. He laughed, then winced, clutching his chest. Wouldn't have it any other way. Speaking of which, I checked my watch. It's time for your medication and some rest. Everyone out. As the family filed out, Patricia hung back. Thank you, she whispered, hugging me. Not just for saving him, but for helping him change. Later during my break, I finally read the rest of Eugene's letter. The words blurred as tears fell onto the paper. I hope someday you can forgive an old man's prejudice. You've taught me more about healthcare in 2 weeks than I learned in 40 years of practice. Most importantly, you've taught me that true strength isn't in titles or degrees, but in the capacity to care for others regardless of how they treat you. I'm proud to call you family. Hey! Ivy appeared with coffee. You okay? I showed her the letter. Karma works in mysterious ways, doesn't it? Sure does, she grinned. Now come on, your favorite patient is probably trying to get out of bed again. I tucked the letter away carefully. There would be time to treasure it later. Right now, I had a job to do. The job I'd always been proud of, regardless of what anyone thought. Ready for your discharge? I asked, wheeling a wheelchair into Eugene's room. 3 weeks had passed since his admission, and he was finally going home. I can walk, he protested, but there was no bite in his words anymore. Hospital policy, I reminded him. Besides, I've earned the right to wheel you out of here. He chuckled, allowing me to help him into the chair. That you have. Patricia bustled around the room, gathering their belongings. Don't forget the letter, dear. What letter? I asked. Eugene pulled an envelope from his robe pocket. You'll see, but not until after the party tonight. The family had planned a dinner to celebrate Eugene's recovery. I'd tried to decline, saying I had a shift, but Leandro had mysteriously rearranged the schedule to give me the evening off. Speaking of the party, Savannah appeared in the doorway. Everything's ready at the house. And Dad, the guests are arriving. Guests? I raised an eyebrow. I thought this was just family. It is family, Eugene said cryptically. All kinds of family. As I wheeled Eugene toward the exit, hospital staff kept stopping us. Nurses, orderlies, even the cafeteria workers came to wish him well. He knew all their names now, something the old Eugene would never have bothered to learn. "Take care of yourself, Dr. Marshall," called Maria from housekeeping. "Thank you, Maria. Keep that son of yours studying. He'll make a great nurse one day." In the parking lot, Aston helped his father into the car while Patricia hugged me. "See you tonight," she whispered, "and wear something nice. This is important to him." That evening, I stood before the Marshalls' front door, smoothing my dress nervously. Aston squeezed my hand. "Ready?" Why do I feel like I'm walking into something bigger than a family dinner? He just smiled and opened the door. The house was full of people, but not just the usual family members. I recognized faces from the hospital. Ivy, Leandro, Maria, the physical therapy team, even Dr. Thompson. They all turned to applaud as we entered. "What's going on?" I whispered to Aston. Eugene stood up from his chair, steadier now but still using a cane. He cleared his throat for attention. "Thank you all for coming," he began. "Most of you know why we're here, but my daughter-in-law seems confused." He smiled at me. "Fatima, come here, please." Bewildered, I walked to the center of the room. 3 weeks ago, Eugene continued, I had a stroke. It could have been the end of me, but more importantly, it could have been the end of my ignorance. He pulled out the letter from earlier. "I've spent my career looking down on nurses, believing they were somehow lesser than doctors. I was wrong." He unfolded the paper. "This is my formal letter of resignation as chief of surgery." Gasps filled the room. I stared at him in shock. "Instead," he continued, "I'm establishing the Marshall Nursing Excellence Program at the hospital, a scholarship fund to support nursing education and advancement." He turned to me. "And I want you, Fatima, to help run it." "Me?" I squeaked. "Who better?" he smiled. "You've shown me what nursing truly means. It's not just following doctors' orders or changing bedpans. It's being there in the darkest moments, fighting for patients when they can't fight for themselves, seeing them as people first and cases second." Ivy was openly crying. Leandro beamed proudly. "The program will fully fund nursing education for deserving candidates," Eugene continued, "including Maria's son, who's already been accepted as our first scholar." Maria clutched her hands to her chest, tears streaming down her face. "But most importantly," Eugene turned back to me, "it will stand as a reminder that healthcare isn't about hierarchy. It's about healing, about caring, about being there when people need you most." He held out the letter. "Will you help me make this happen?" I took the letter with trembling hands. I don't know what to say. "Say yes," Aston whispered behind me. "Yes," I managed, my voice thick with emotion. "Yes, of course." The room erupted in applause. Eugene pulled me into a hug, our first ever. "Thank you," he whispered, "for not giving up on this old fool." "Thank you," I replied, "for finally seeing us, seeing me." Patricia called for champagne, and the room filled with the pop of corks and happy chatter. As glasses were passed around, I felt Ivy nudge me. "So," she grinned, "still think karma's finished with you?" I watched Eugene moving through the crowd, talking with nurses and staff members he would have ignored just weeks ago. He caught my eye and raised his glass. "No," I smiled, raising mine in return. "I think karma's just getting started." The party continued late into the night, but it wasn't just a celebration of Eugene's recovery. It was a celebration of transformation, of barriers broken, prejudices overcome, and the recognition that sometimes the greatest victories come not from revenge, but from change. And that's why nursing isn't just a job, it's a calling, I concluded, facing the eager faces of the first class of Marshall Nursing Excellence Program scholars. "Any questions?" A young man in the front row raised his hand. "Did Dr. Eugene really throw a wine glass at you?" "Miguel!" Maria scolded from the back of the room, where she sat beaming at her son. "It's okay," I laughed. "Yes, he did. And speaking of Eugene, the door opened and Eugene himself walked in, his cane tapping against the floor. He moved slower these days, but his mind was as sharp as ever. "Sorry I'm late," he announced. "Had to finish interviewing candidates for next semester's program." The students straightened in their seats. Eugene's reputation still commanded respect, but now for different reasons. "Tell them about the patient you had yesterday," I suggested, knowing the story would drive home our point. Eugene settled into a chair. "Ah, yes, a surgeon, actually. Brilliant man, technically speaking. But he came in with severe pneumonia, and do you know what his biggest complaint was?" The students shook their heads. "That he had to take orders from nurses." Eugene smiled wryly. "Reminded me of someone I used to know." "What did you tell him?" Miguel asked. "I told him to shut up and listen to his nurses if he wanted to live." Eugene winked at me. Then I told him about how my own nurse saved my life by being stubborn enough to stand up to me. After class, as the students filed out, Eugene touched my arm. "Got a minute?" We walked to the hospital garden, where a new bench had been installed under a blooming cherry tree. Patricia was already there, holding a small gift bag. "What's this about?" I asked. "Sit." Eugene patted the bench. "I've been doing some thinking." "Dangerous habit," I teased, but sat down. "The program's been running for 3 months now," he said. "And watching you with those students, you're not just teaching them nursing skills, you're teaching them dignity, compassion, and strength." Patricia handed me the gift bag. Inside was a nameplate. Fatima Marshall, Director of Nursing Education. "We want you to take over the program completely," Eugene said. "I'll still consult, but it's time for the next generation to lead." "I don't know what to say," I whispered, tracing the letters with my finger. "Say you'll do it," Patricia urged. "You've already changed so many lives. Think how many more you could help." Before I could respond, Ivy burst into the garden. "Fatima! Emergency in the ICU! We need you!" I jumped up, professional instincts kicking in. "What's happening?" "Multiple trauma coming in. Car accident. They're asking for our best nurses." I turned to Eugene and Patricia. "I have to..." "Go," Eugene smiled. "That's who you are. That's who you've always been. We'll finish this conversation later." As I rushed to the ICU with Ivy, I heard Eugene's voice behind me. "That's my daughter-in-law, best damn nurse in the hospital." Hours later, after the trauma patients were stabilized, I found Aston waiting for me at the nurse's station. "Heard you worked another miracle," he said, pulling me close. "It was a team effort," I replied, leaning into him. "Your father offered me the director position." "I know," he grinned. "He's been planning it for weeks. Says it's time the program was run by someone who truly understands what nursing means." "Speaking of your father," I nodded toward Eugene's old room, now occupied by the surgeon with pneumonia. Inside, Eugene sat beside the bed, deep in conversation with the patient. We moved closer to listen. "Thought I was too good to take orders from nurses," the surgeon was saying. "But watching them work today, especially during the trauma, I've never seen such coordination, such skill." "Sounds familiar," Eugene chuckled. "Let me tell you about the nurse who changed my life." I pulled Aston away, leaving Eugene to his storytelling. In the hallway, Savannah was posting flyers for the next semester's nursing program. "Applications have doubled," she reported excitedly. "Word's getting around about what we're doing here." I looked at the nameplate in my hand, then at the flyers, then at Eugene still talking animatedly to the humbled surgeon. Everything had changed, yet everything felt exactly right. "You know," Aston said softly, "when you first started standing up to Dad, I was worried it would tear the family apart. Instead, it made us stronger." "That's because it was never about revenge," I replied, watching a new group of nursing students walk past, their faces bright with purpose. "It was about showing people the truth, that sometimes the greatest strength lies in caring for others, even when they don't deserve it, especially when they don't deserve it." "Ready to change more lives, Director Marshall?" Ivy called, holding up another emergency chart. I smiled, already moving toward the next challenge. Always ready, that's what nurses do.
The day I lost everything started like any other Tuesday at Bradley's Bakery. The bell chimed as customers filed in for their morning coffee and pastries. the aroma of fresh-baked bread filling the air. I had no idea my husband was about to destroy 15 years of my family's hard work in less than 15 minutes. I'm Tatum, and until that morning, I thought I knew what betrayal felt like. I was wrong. Morning, sunshine. Darren's voice carried across the bakery as he strolled in, pristine suit and perfect smile intact. He kissed my cheek, but something felt off. The way he glanced around the shop, like he was cataloguing every detail. "You're here early," I said, sliding a tray of croissants into the display case. "Thought you had that big meeting today." "Oh, I do." He drummed his fingers on the counter. "Actually, that's why I'm here. Your dad around?" Before I could answer, Dad emerged from the kitchen, flour dusting his apron. "Darren, good to see you, son." What happened next plays in my mind like a slow-motion car crash. Darren pulled out a stack of papers, speaking in that smooth voice he used to close deals. "So, I've been looking over the bakery's finances, and I think I've found a solution to your cash flow problems." Dad's face fell. "What cash flow problems?" "The ones I discovered while reviewing your books." Darren's smile never wavered. "You gave me access last month, remember? For that loan application." The rolling pin I was holding clattered to the floor. "What loan application?" "Honey, this is business talk," Darren said, not even looking at me. "Your father and I have been discussing options." "Like hell you have." I stepped between them, but Dad grabbed my arm. "Tatum, wait. Maybe we should hear him out." The next 10 minutes were a blur of legal jargon and thinly veiled threats. Darren had somehow convinced my father that we were on the brink of bankruptcy, which was news to me, considering I handled most of our accounting. He presented a rescue package that would save the bakery, requiring only that we sign over controlling interest to his company, Artemis Eateries. "This is insane," I said, scanning the documents. "Dad, we're not in financial trouble. He's lying." Actually, Darren pulled out another paper. "You are. The health department found several violations last week. Major ones. They're threatening to shut you down." My blood ran cold. "We passed inspection 3 weeks ago." Funny how things change. His eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw the real Darren, calculating, cold, victorious. "You did this," I whispered. "You set us up." "I'm trying to help," he said loudly, for Dad's benefit. "Without this deal, you'll lose everything. With it, you keep working here. Same as always, just under better management." Dad's hand shook as he reached for the pen. "We don't have a choice, do we?" "Dad, no." I grabbed his arm. "He's stealing our bakery." "I'm saving it," Darren corrected. "Sign here, please." I watched in horror as my father signed away our legacy. The bakery my grandparents had opened in 1962, where I'd learned to bake my first cookie, where Mum had worked until the day she died, gone with a few strokes of a pen. Darren gathered the papers, tucking them into his briefcase. "I'll have my team here this afternoon to begin the transition. Don't worry, you'll both still have jobs. For now." The bell chimed again as he left, leaving behind the scent of his expensive cologne and the ruins of my life. Dad slumped against the counter, looking older than I'd ever seen him. "What have I done?" he whispered. I couldn't answer. I was already pulling out my phone, calling Avery, my best friend, and the only lawyer I knew. "He can't do this," I said when she picked up. "There has to be a way to fight it." "I'll be there in 20 minutes, she promised. "Don't sign anything else." But it was too late. By the time Avery arrived, Darren's legal team had already taken control. Within a week, Dad was retired, with a pittance of a severance package, and I was informed my services were no longer required. The final twist of the knife came that night when I returned home to find Darren packing his bags. "You understand, right?" He didn't even look guilty. "It's just business, nothing personal." I stood in our bedroom doorway watching him fold his designer shirts. "How long have you been planning this?" "Does it matter?" He zipped his suitcase. "You were never going to be enough, Tatum. The bakery was just the beginning. I'm building an empire." He brushed past me, then paused. Oh, and I'll have my lawyer contact you about the divorce. Try not to make it messy. The front door clicked shut, and I sank to the floor, my world imploding around me. But somewhere in the midst of my tears, something else began to burn. Determination. Darren thought he'd broken me, but he'd just lit a fire. I pulled out my phone again, this time calling Valeria, the restaurateur who'd been trying to hire me for months. Still interested in teaching me the business? I asked when she answered. Always, she said. Why? I smiled through my tears. Because I'm going to need to know everything about running restaurants. Every single thing. You're holding the knife wrong, Valeria said, adjusting my grip for the 100th time. A chef's knife is an extension of your arm, not a weapon. 6 months had passed since I'd lost the bakery, and here I was, starting from scratch in Valeria's upscale Manhattan restaurant. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd gone from master baker to kitchen novice overnight. Sorry, I muttered, repositioning my fingers. Old habits. Speaking of old habits, Valeria leaned against the prep station. Your ex-husband's new acquisition is making waves. Did you see the article in the Times? My knife slipped, nearly taking off a fingertip. No, I've been avoiding the news. Smart girl, but you should know he's expanding, buying up small restaurants, turning them into chain concepts. People are calling him the fast casual king of New York. I focused on dicing onions, letting their sting excuse the tears in my eyes. Good for him? No, Valeria grabbed my wrist, forcing me to look at her. Not good for him. Good for you. Every empire has weak spots, Tatum. You just need to learn where to look. A commotion from the dining room interrupted us. Chef! One of the servers burst into the kitchen. Levi Hoffman is here again. Valeria cursed under her breath. 3rd time this week. He's trying to poach my staff. Levi Hoffman, I asked. Rising star in the restaurant world. Aggressive expansion, but quality-focused. Unlike your ex. She straightened her chef's coat. Stay here. Learn something. But I followed her anyway, curious about this rival restaurateur. Through the kitchen door, I watched Valeria approach a tall man in an impeccable suit who was chatting with one of her line cooks. Levi, Valeria's voice could have frozen hell. This is getting old. He turned, flashing a disarming smile. Valeria, just having a friendly chat with your talented staff. My staff isn't interested in your offers. Actually, the line cook interrupted, I was considering... Marcus, Valeria's tone left no room for argument. Back to work. As Marcus skulked away, Levi's eyes landed on me. New face? Off limits, Valeria snapped. I don't know, I stepped forward, ignoring Valeria's warning look. I might be interested in hearing an offer. Levi's eyebrows shot up. Really? And you are? Tatum, former owner of Bradley's Bakery. Recognition flickered across his face. Ah, Darren's ex. Heard about that mess. He studied me more carefully. Interesting career change. Necessary one, I corrected. Your turn. Why are you really here? He glanced at Valeria, then back to me. Coffee, there's a place around the corner. 20 minutes later, I sat across from Levi in a quiet cafe, watching him doctor his espresso with precise amounts of sugar and cream. So, he said, you're learning the restaurant business to get back at Darren. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. He leaned back. Look, I respect revenge as much as the next person, but you're going about it wrong. I'm not. Save it. He pulled out his phone, showing me a spreadsheet. Darren's expanding too fast, taking on too much debt. His concepts are flashy, but shallow. In 18 months, maybe 24, it'll all start falling apart. I stared at the numbers. How do you know this? Because I've been watching him, waiting. Levi's smile turned predatory. And now I'm wondering if you'd like to help speed up the process. Why would you want my help? Because you know his weaknesses, and because watching him lose everything to his ex-wife would be... He sipped his coffee. Poetic. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from Avery. Turn on the news now. Levi noticed my expression change. Problem? I pulled up a news site, and there it was. Artemis Eateries announces IPO plans. Darren Holmes set to take company public. Well, Levi said, reading over my shoulder, that changes things. How so? Because now there's a clock ticking. Once he goes public, taking him down becomes much harder. He pulled out a business card. I'm offering you a job, Tatum. Real responsibility, real learning opportunity, but you need to decide fast. I thought about Valeria, who'd given me a chance when I needed it most. I can't just... Yes, you can. He stood up. Call me by tomorrow if you want in. Oh, and Tatum. He paused at the door. The knife skills will come. Focus on learning the business side. That's where wars are really won. I sat there long after he left, turning his card over in my hands. Finally, I called Valeria. He offered you a job, didn't he? She said before I could speak. Yes. She sighed. Take it. Levi's an ass, but he's brilliant at business, and that's what you need right now. You're not mad? Mad? Honey, I'm proud. You're finally thinking like a shark instead of a minnow. She paused. Just promise me one thing? What's that? When you take Darren down, make it spectacular. Some of us will want front row seats. I smiled, already dialing Levi's number. That's a promise I intend to keep. You're not going to believe this. Avery burst into my office at Levi's restaurant group, waving her tablet. Artemis Eateries is in trouble. I looked up from the financial reports I'd been studying for the past year. What kind of trouble? The delicious kind. She perched on my desk, pulling up an article. Their IPO filing revealed some interesting numbers. Their growth isn't what Darren's been claiming. 3 of their newest locations are hemorrhaging money. Show me. I grabbed the tablet, scanning the figures. After 18 months working under Levi, I could read between the lines of financial statements. What I saw made me smile. Their debt-to-equity ratio is insane, I muttered. He's been borrowing against future earnings that don't exist. Exactly. Avery grinned. The stock price is tanking before they even go public. Investors are pulling out. My phone buzzed, Levi calling. Did you see? I asked when I picked up. Get to my office, now. 10 minutes later, I sat across from Levi, watching him pace. This is our moment, he said. Darren's vulnerable. His investors are spooked. He needs a white knight. And you want to be that knight? He stopped pacing. No, I want you to be. I blinked. What? Think about it. You've learned every aspect of this business. You've turned around 3 failing restaurants in the past year. Your name carries weight now. But I don't have that kind of capital. No, he sat down, sliding a folder across his desk. But I do, and I'm willing to back you. I opened the folder to find acquisition papers. You want me to buy Artemis Eateries? I want us to buy it together. You'll be the face of the deal. I'll be the silent partner. You get controlling interest. I get a healthy return on investment. He leaned forward. Plus, I get to watch Darren Holmes sell his company to his ex-wife. That's worth the price of admission alone. My hands shook as I read the terms. This is real? Very, but we need to move fast. Word is Darren's meeting with other potential buyers next week. I pulled out my phone, dialing Avery. How quickly can you review an acquisition proposal? Give me an hour, she said after I explained the situation. And Tatum, this is it. This is your chance. The next few days passed in a blur of meetings, paperwork, and sleepless nights. Levi's team worked around the clock, preparing our offer. Finally, we were ready. Remember, Levi said as we walked into the Artemis Eateries headquarters, let me do the talking. You're just here as my restaurant operations expert. The conference room was packed with executives, lawyers, and one very nervous-looking Darren. He did a double take when he saw me. What is she doing here? He demanded. Ms. Bradley is my chief operations officer, Levi said smoothly. Her experience in restaurant turnarounds is crucial to our proposal. I sat silently, watching Darren squirm as Levi presented our offer. It was generous enough to be tempting, but structured to give us complete control. This is ridiculous, Darren interrupted halfway through. We have other interested parties. Who? Levi asked. The Singapore group that pulled out yesterday? Or the private equity firm that's lowballing you? He smiled. Face it, Darren, we're your best option. One of the board members cleared his throat. Mr. Holmes, he's right. We need to consider this offer seriously. The meeting dragged on for hours. I watched Darren's facade crack bit by bit as his board members and lawyers increasingly sided with our proposal. Finally, they called for a brief recess. Darren cornered me in the hallway. What are you playing at? Playing? I'm not playing anything. I'm doing business. I met his gaze steadily. Isn't that what you taught me? It's nothing personal. His face reddened. You think you can run my company? Better than you have. I stepped closer. Your books are a mess, Darren. Your concepts are stale. You've been so focused on expansion that you forgot about quality, just like you did with the bakery. The bakery was failing. The bakery was fine until you fabricated health violations and manipulated my father. I kept my voice low, controlled. You wanted an empire. Congratulations. You built one on sand and now it's crumbling. The board members filed back in before he could respond. I took my seat, watching as they announced their decision to accept our offer, pending final negotiations. Levi shook hands with everyone while I gathered my papers. As we left, I paused at the door. Oh, Darren, I turned back. Don't worry, I'll have my lawyer contact you about the transition. Try not to make it messy. Outside, Levi burst out laughing. That was beautiful. Did you see his face? But I wasn't celebrating yet. We still have to turn these restaurants around. We will. He hailed a cab. But first, we're going to celebrate. Dinner at Valeria's? I nodded, finally allowing myself to smile. Perfect. I hear she makes an excellent revenge dish, served cold. All rise. The boardroom fell silent as I walked in, heels clicking against the polished floor. 30 pairs of eyes followed me to the head of the table. Executives, managers, and district supervisors of Artemis Eateries, all waiting to meet their new CEO. Good morning, I said, remaining standing. I'm Tatum Bradley. As of 9 a.m. today, I'm your new chief executive. A murmur rippled through the room. I spotted Darren at the far end, arms crossed, jaw clenched. He was required to stay on as a consultant during the transition, a detail I'd specifically requested in the contract. Let's address the elephant in the room, I continued. Yes, I'm Darren's ex-wife. No, this isn't about revenge. I paused. This is about survival. Your jobs, this company's future, depend on what happens in the next 6 months. I clicked through my presentation, displaying graphs of plummeting profits and rising costs. These numbers tell a story. It's not a happy one. With all due respect, a middle-aged manager interrupted, we've been hitting our growth targets. Through unsustainable expansion and cost-cutting, I finished for him. When was the last time you ate at one of our restaurants, Mark? He shifted uncomfortably. Last month. Try again. Our records show you haven't used your employee meal benefit in over 6 months. Neither have most of you. I looked around the room. You don't eat at your own restaurants. That's problem number 1. Darren stood up. This is absurd. Our concepts are... Failing, I cut him off. Sit down, Darren. You're here to observe, not speak. The room tensed as we stared each other down. Finally, he sat, his face flushed with anger. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. Every executive in this room will spend the next week working in our restaurants. Front of house, back of house, every position. You'll eat every item on the menu. You'll talk to customers. Then we'll meet again. That's not in our contracts, someone protested. Your contracts are being revised. Those who don't wish to participate can submit their resignations by end of day. The room erupted in whispers. I waited them out. One more thing, I added. We're reopening Bradley's Bakery. Now Darren did jump up. You can't do that. The lease transferred with the acquisition. I smiled. You really should read contracts more carefully, Darren. Meeting adjourned. I gathered my papers as the room cleared out, executives muttering among themselves. Darren lingered, waiting until we were alone. "You're going to destroy everything I built," he said. "No, I'm going to fix what you broke." I met his eyes. "Starting with the bakery. This is about your father, isn't it? This is about doing business right." I walked to the door, then turned back. "By the way, you start at the downtown Brooklyn location tomorrow, 6 a.m. sharp. The manager there runs a tight ship. I'm not working in a restaurant kitchen. Then clear out your office by 5. I checked my watch. "I have another meeting. Don't be late tomorrow." In the elevator, my hands finally started shaking. Avery was waiting in my new office. "How'd it go?" she asked. "About as expected." I collapsed into my chair. "Half of them will probably quit." "Good. Fresh blood is exactly what you need." She handed me a coffee. "Your father called, by the way. He saw the news about the bakery." My stomach tightened. "What did he say?" "He wants to meet. Says he has some ideas about the reopening." Tears pricked at my eyes. Dad hadn't baked since the day we lost the bakery. "Tell him yes, whenever he wants." My phone buzzed. Levi texting, watching the stock price climb. "Well done, partner." Another buzz. Valeria. "Dinner tonight. We need to celebrate properly." A knock at the door interrupted my replies. Jennifer, Darren's sister, stood there looking uncertain. "Can we talk?" she asked. I gestured to a chair. "Of course." Avery excused herself as Jennifer sat down. "I know Darren hurt you," she said, "but these people, their jobs, are safer with me than they were with him," I finished. "I'm not here to destroy the company, Jennifer. I'm here to save it. By forcing executives to work in kitchens. By reminding everyone what this business is really about. Food, service, people." I leaned forward. "Stay. Help me fix this. You've always seen the problems your brother couldn't." She studied me for a long moment. "The bakery. Will you really reopen it? Come see for yourself." I stood up. "I'm heading there now to check on renovations." Jennifer hesitated, then nodded. "Okay, show me." As we rode to Brooklyn, I thought about all the pieces falling into place. The bakery would rise again, but this time as the heart of something bigger, something better. Darren had taught me about empire building, but he'd forgotten the most important lesson. Empires built on greed collapse. Empires built on quality endure. Tomorrow, Darren would learn that lesson the hard way, starting with a 6 a.m. shift in his own failing restaurant. "Is this live?" I asked, staring at my phone screen where a viral video was playing. It showed Darren, still in his expensive suit, having a meltdown in one of our restaurant kitchens. "Oh, it's live," Avery confirmed, barely containing her glee. "And trending. Our restaurant Karen is currently number 3 on Twitter." In the video, Darren was red-faced, jabbing his finger at a teenage line cook. "Do you know who I am? I built this company." "Sir," the cook replied calmly, "the dishes still need to be washed. Company policy says everyone helps during rush hour." "I'm not touching those dishes. Get a dishwasher." "We're short-staffed because corporate cut our labor budget last month. Your policy, sir." I watched as Darren stormed out, knocking over a stack of clean plates in the process. The video ended with the line cook looking directly at the camera and deadpanning. "Thanks, corporate." 3 million views and counting, Avery said. "The comments are brutal." My phone rang. Jennifer. "Have you seen—" "I'm watching it now," I said. "He's completely lost it. He's at my apartment ranting about how you set him up. I didn't set up anything. He did this to himself." I paused. "Is he drinking?" "Yeah. And he's talking about going to the press, exposing some truth about you." I smiled. "Perfect. Let him." "Perfect. Tatum, what are you planning?" "Just make sure he stays angry, and keep recording if he says anything interesting." After hanging up, I turned to Avery. "Time for phase 2? She nodded, pulling out a folder. "The audit results came back. You're going to love this." 2 hours later, I sat in my office with a reporter from the Wall Street Journal. These documents show systematic mismanagement under the previous leadership, I explained, sliding over the audit reports. Cost-cutting that compromised food safety, labor law violations, even evidence of supplier kickbacks. The reporter's eyes widened as she read. This is comprehensive. We're implementing immediate changes, I continued, starting with restoring proper staffing levels and quality standards. The previous management's focus on rapid expansion led to these issues. Speaking of previous management, she looked up. Your ex-husband's video is causing quite a stir. Yes, it's unfortunate, but it illustrates exactly why we're making these changes. Every executive is required to work in our restaurants now. Some are adapting better than others. And the bakery reopening, that's your family's original business, correct? It is. We're returning to our roots: quality food, fair treatment of workers, sustainable growth. I smiled. Would you like to see it? The renovation is almost complete. The bakery was buzzing with activity when we arrived. Dad was there, supervising the installation of new ovens. This is where it all started, he told the reporter, pride evident in his voice. And where it's starting again, thanks to my daughter. The reporter scribbled notes as Dad showed her around, explaining our vision for combining traditional baking with modern restaurant concepts. I stepped outside to take a call from Levi. Your ex is on CNBC right now, he said, making a complete fool of himself. I pulled up the live stream. Darren was sweating under the studio lights, his tie askew. She's destroying everything, he was saying. She's turned my own sister against me. She's spreading lies. Mr. Holmes, the anchor interrupted, your former company's stock has risen 15% since Ms. Bradley took over. The market seems to approve of her changes. The market doesn't understand. He stopped, seeming to realize how he sounded. This is a personal vendetta. Is that why you're here instead of working your scheduled shift at your former restaurant? The anchor's tone was devastating. We have reports you walked out mid-service, leaving your staff short-handed. I ended the stream, turning back to the bakery. Through the window, I could see Dad teaching the reporter how to properly shape a croissant, his hands moving with the confidence I remembered from childhood. My phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer. He's completely melting down, talking about leaving the country. Don't let him, I replied. The board still has questions about those supplier contracts he signed. Another buzz. Valeria this time. Just saw CNBC. Karma's a beautiful thing, isn't it? I watched Dad laugh at something the reporter said and felt a warmth that had nothing to do with revenge. This was about more than getting even. This was about rebuilding something real, something lasting. The reporter emerged, tucking away her notebook. One last question, she said. What would you say to those who claim this is just about revenge? I looked through the window again, at Dad showing a young baker how to use our old family recipes. Revenge is about destroying things, I said. This is about creating something better from the ashes. That's not revenge. That's redemption. She nodded, understanding. The story runs tomorrow. Perfect timing, I smiled, just in time for the bakery's grand reopening. And Darren's final fall from grace. The Wall Street Journal article hit like a bomb. I sat in the newly renovated Bradley's bakery, watching the fallout unfold on my laptop, while the smell of fresh bread filled the air. Board members demand investigation into former CEO's practices, one headline screamed. Restaurant empire's dark underbelly exposed, declared another. My phone hadn't stopped ringing since dawn. I ignored most calls, but answered when Jennifer's name flashed on the screen. He's gone, she said without preamble. Cleared out his apartment overnight, left his phone behind. I closed my eyes. Any idea where? Probably Dad's place in the Hamptons. He always runs there when things get bad. She paused. Tatum, I know he deserved this, but he's your brother, I finished. I get it. Do you? Because this morning's article, it's not just Darren who looks bad. Dad's reputation is ruined too. The bell above the bakery door chimed. I looked up to see Clifford, Darren's father, walking in. He looked older than his 60 years, defeated. "Jennifer, I'll call you back." Clifford stood before the counter, taking in the renovated space. "Looks different," he said finally. "Better different or worse different?" "Just different." He met my eyes. "Like everything else these days." I gestured to a table. "Coffee?" He nodded, sinking into a chair while I brought over 2 cups and a plate of fresh croissants. We sat in silence for a moment, the morning sunlight streaming through the windows. "You've destroyed my family's name," he said finally. "Your son destroyed it himself. I just exposed the truth." "The truth?" He laughed bitterly. "The truth is, I pushed him too hard, expected too much, made him think success was everything. I hadn't expected this. Anger, yes. Threats, probably, but not regret. You raised him to be ruthless," I said. "He learned that lesson well." "I raised him to be successful." Clifford stared into his coffee. "I never taught him to be cruel. That part." He shook his head. "That's on him." The bakery was filling up with morning customers. I watched them line up, chatting and laughing, completely unaware of the drama unfolding at our table. "What do you want, Clifford?" "Want?" He looked around the bakery again. "I want to understand something. You've won. You've taken everything from him. Why reopen this place?" "Because this place matters." I broke a croissant in half, the buttery layers perfectly flaky. "Every recipe here has a story. Every customer is part of our community." Darren never understood that. He saw numbers, not people. "And you see both," Clifford said slowly. "That's why you're succeeding where he failed." My phone buzzed. Levi texting. "Board meeting in an hour. They want to discuss pressing charges." "Are you going to have him arrested?" Clifford asked, reading my expression. "That depends on him." I met his gaze. "The supplier kickbacks, the health code violations, those are serious charges. But if he cooperates with the investigation, tells the truth, you'd show mercy after everything? Not mercy, justice." I stood up. "Find him, Clifford. Tell him he has 24 hours to come forward voluntarily. After that, it's out of my hands." Clifford rose slowly. "You're a better person than we deserved, Tatum. This isn't about being better, it's about being right." After he left, I called Jennifer back. "Dad was just here," I said. "I know, he texted me." She sounded tired. "You're really giving Darren a chance to come clean?" "Yes, but Jennifer..." I paused. "Make sure he understands this is his last chance." "I will." She hesitated. "Thank you." I ended the call and walked behind the counter. Dad was there, teaching a new baker our signature sourdough technique. "Everything okay?" he asked, noting my expression. "I don't know." I picked up an apron. "Did I go too far?" He considered this while shaping a loaf. "Remember what Mom used to say about bread? The right amount of heat makes it rise. Too much burns it to ash." "Exactly." He smiled. "You applied just enough heat, honey. Now let's see if he rises or burns." The morning rush picked up, and I lost myself in the rhythm of the bakery, taking orders, greeting regulars, making change. This was real. This mattered. My phone buzzed again, Avery this time. "Police just called. Darren's at the station, ready to talk." I looked around the bakery, at the life and warmth filling the space that Darren had once tried to destroy. He'd thought taking it would break me. Instead, it had made me stronger, taught me the difference between revenge and justice. "Tell them I'll be there in an hour," I texted back. Some things are more important than watching someone fall. I turned back to the customers, to the smell of fresh bread and coffee, to the sound of laughter and conversation. This was my empire now, built not on greed and betrayal, but on quality and community, and unlike Darren's, it would last. "He's ready to see you," the detective said, leading me down a sterile hallway to an interview room. Through the window, I could see Darren sitting alone at a table, his designer suit wrinkled, his face unshaven. "Remember," Avery whispered beside me, Let him talk. The more he says, the better our position. I nodded, took a deep breath and walked in. Darren didn't look up. You look terrible, I said, sitting across from him. Spending the night in a holding cell will do that. His voice was hoarse. Happy now? No. I placed a file on the table. But we can end this today if you're ready to be honest. He finally met my eyes. Honest about what? How you orchestrated my downfall? How about we start with the health inspector you bribed to shut down the bakery? His jaw tightened. You can't prove that. Actually, I pulled out a document. He's already given a statement, along with 3 of your former suppliers who admitted to the kickback scheme. They're lying. Are the bank records lying too? I slid over another paper. Or the emails, or the surveillance footage. Colour drained from his face as he scanned the evidence. How did you find it all? I learned from the best, remember? You taught me to be thorough. I leaned forward. But unlike you, I'm offering a way out. What way out? You've already won. Taken everything. Sign a full confession, pay back the money you stole, testify against the others involved. I tapped the file. Do that, and I'll recommend no jail time. He laughed bitterly. Why would you do that? Because Jennifer asked me to. I watched his expression change at his sister's name. She still believes there's something worth saving in you. The door opened and Jennifer walked in. Darren straightened immediately, trying to smooth his rumpled appearance. Jen, you shouldn't be here. Someone has to talk sense into you. She sat beside me. The evidence is overwhelming, Darren. Take the deal. It's not that simple. Yes, it is. Jennifer's voice cracked. For once in your life, do the right thing. Silence filled the room. I could almost see the wheels turning in Darren's head, calculating angles, looking for escape routes. Dad's reputation, he said finally. This will destroy him. Dad destroyed himself, Jennifer replied. Just like you did, but he's ready to face it. Are you? Darren slumped in his chair, the fight draining out of him. I never meant for it to go this far. Tell me something, I said. The bakery, why? You already had success. Why did you need to take it? He was quiet for a long moment. Because you loved it more than me. The simple honesty of his answer hit me like a physical blow. You were building this empire, he continued, and the bakery was just this small, comfortable thing. I thought if I took it, made it part of something bigger. He shook his head. I wanted you to see what I could create. Instead, you destroyed everything we had. I know. He reached for the confession papers. What happens after I sign? You step down from all remaining positions, pay restitution, give a full statement to the authorities. I slid him a pen. And then you get help, Darren. Real help. And the company. We'll continue without you. We're already turning things around. He picked up the pen, then paused. The old recipes, Mom's cinnamon rolls, the sourdough method. You're still using those? Of course. Some things shouldn't change. He signed the papers, his hand shaking slightly. Jennifer reached across and squeezed his arm. I'll have someone drive you home, I said, gathering the documents. Get some rest. Your lawyer will contact you about next steps. At the door, he called out, Tatum. I turned back. The bakery. You've made it better than it ever was. Even before. I know. I met his eyes one last time. Goodbye, Darren. Outside, Avery was waiting with the detective. He signed. I handed over the confession. Everything you need is there. My phone buzzed, Dad texting, afternoon rush starting, could use your help if you're done saving the world. Go, Avery said, reading over my shoulder. I'll handle the rest here. The drive back to Brooklyn felt longer than usual. By the time I walked into the bakery, the line was out the door. Dad was at the counter, flour on his apron, smile on his face. Perfect timing, he said, tossing me an apron. These good people need their bread. I tied on the apron, breathing in the familiar sense of yeast and butter. Through the window, I could see the afternoon sun painting the street gold. Customers chatted while they waited, the buzz of community filling the space. This was what winning really felt like, not destroying an enemy, but building something worth fighting for. Coming right up, I called to the waiting customers, rolling up my sleeves. There was work to be done, and I was ready to do it. Ready? Dad asked, adjusting his tie in the bakery's front window. Almost. I placed the last fresh-baked loaf in the display case. The morning sun caught the golden crust, making it glow. Perfect. Outside, a small crowd had gathered. Customers, reporters, and food critics, all waiting for our grand reopening ceremony. But this wasn't just about the bakery anymore. "They're here," Avery called from the door. Levi and Valeria walked in, followed by Jennifer. "No Darren?" I asked her quietly. She shook her head. "He's still at the treatment center, but he sent this." She handed me a card. Inside, his familiar handwriting, "Build it better than I ever could." "Time to start," Levi said, checking his watch. "You ready to announce the foundation?" I nodded, straightening my jacket. We'd planned this carefully. The bakery's reopening would also launch the Fresh Start Foundation, providing training and support for small food businesses. Funded by the restitution money from Darren's case, it felt like the perfect way to close this chapter. Dad opened the doors, and the crowd flowed in. Cameras flashed as I stepped behind the counter, not a podium, but the place where I felt most at home. "Welcome to Bradley's Bakery," I began. "Some of you might remember this place. Some of you might have read about its story. But today isn't about the past." I gestured to the walls, where photos hung showing the bakery's history, from my grandparents' opening day to my parents' wedding, to me as a child covered in flour. This place taught me something important. Success isn't just about profit margins or market share. It's about community, about creating something that matters. Valeria stepped forward, carrying a tray of fresh pastries. Which is why today, we're not just reopening a bakery, we're launching something new. I explained the foundation's mission, while Dad and Jennifer distributed bread samples. The reporters scribbled notes as I detailed our plans to help other small businesses avoid the pitfalls we'd faced. "The first grant," I announced, "will go to rebuilding Mario's Pizzeria in Queens, which nearly closed last month due to corporate pressure." Mario himself stepped forward, tears in his eyes. "This will save my family's business," he said. "Thank you." As the crowd mingled and celebrated, Levi pulled me aside. "The board approved the restructuring plan. Artemis Eateries will be officially renamed next week." "Good." I watched Dad teaching Mario's teenage son how to properly shape a pizza crust. Some traditions deserve to survive. Speaking of survival, Avery joined us. The prosecutor called. "Darren's making good progress. His therapist thinks he'll be ready for outpatient treatment soon." "And the company?" Levi asked. "Growing steadily," I said, "but sustainably this time. Quality over quantity." The bell above the door chimed and Clifford walked in. He looked uncertain until Jennifer waved him over. "I wasn't sure I should come," he said. "Of course you should." I handed him a warm cinnamon roll. "Mom's recipe. Your favorite, if I remember right." He took a bite, closing his eyes, just like she used to make. "Some things don't need improving," Dad said, joining us. "Just protecting." The morning passed in a blur of interviews, handshakes, and countless cups of coffee. Finally, as the crowd thinned, I found myself alone behind the counter, watching the last customers leave. "Quite a change from that Tuesday morning when everything fell apart," Avery said, perching on a stool. "Everything didn't fall apart," I corrected. "It just got rebuilt stronger." My phone buzzed. A text from Darren's treatment center. "Your brother-in-law asked us to share his progress report. 90 days sober, making amends." "Good news?" Avery asked, noting my smile. "Getting there." I put the phone away. "Hey, want to learn how to make sourdough? Dad's teaching a class tonight." "Me? Baking?" She laughed. "I burn microwave popcorn." "Everyone starts somewhere." I tossed her an apron. "That's kind of the point of all this." The afternoon light slanted through the windows, catching the Fresh Start Foundation banner hanging above the door. Outside, life flowed past, people hurrying to meetings, couples walking hand in hand, kids racing home from school. Inside, the smell of fresh bread filled the air, warm and promising. Dad was showing Jennifer how to score the perfect crosshatch pattern on a loaf. Valeria and Levi argued playfully about the best way to knead dough. Even Clifford had rolled up his sleeves, flour dusting his expensive shirt. This was what winning really looked like. Not destroying an enemy or building an empire, but creating a space where broken things could be made whole again, where every day brought a fresh start, a new chance to rise. I picked up a bag of flour, ready to begin the evening's lessons. Okay, everyone. First rule of sourdough: patience. Good things take time. And time, I'd learned, had a way of making things right.